pork and beans. Oh, I don't care if the grease ain't burning. I don't care if the food ain't free. I don't care when your ass starts to cooking. I got me a plate of pork and beans. I got me a plate of pork and beans. I got me a plate of pork and beans. I got me a plate of pork and beans. I got me a plate of pork and beans.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, citizens of planet Earth and beyond, stretching far off into the galaxy, as far as your mind's eye and your imagination can take you. Welcome to the Pork and Bean Show, starring Pork Cunningham and Frank Oliver Baines. We're going to introduce you to new thoughts, put questions in your head, and consider things you've never considered before. Where the paranormal becomes the normal, where unreal becomes real, and where love is everything. Fasten your seatbelts and enjoy the ride.
Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
That sounds horrible. That sounded just horrible. I mean, the song's good, but okay. Here's our guest.
Oh,
Hey, where is he?
Jim Perry. He probably doesn't have his stuff turned on yet.
Here
Hey,
he is.
Jim. Oh, look at this guy, man. He's way more professional than you,
I
Beans.
know,
on,
man.
everybody.
I'm jealous. Look,
Look-
I'm jealous. He's got
Look at
like
that
a
setup.
$500 microphone, and I've got like $100 piece of, Yeti.
Oh,
But
man,
mine
you just
says Yeti on it.
I'll just
you ruined this guy's whole thing, man. All he had going was his microphone. Like he's
That was
crap.
it.
Other than that,
Look
this
at
was the whole thing.
environment here. This,
yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm right now basically in a kitchen because my wife is home working, and so I don't have an office or anything. I'm at the dining room table. So if that makes you feel any better. And look at
it doesn't,
Brian up
man.
here in the great wild north with your background there.
I know.
Yeah,
they make me
yeah.
jealous.
Hey.
I can't do it with mine. I'll show you. Want me to show you what my background looks like?
Yeah.
I'll show you. Oh, whoops. I'll choose a virtual background. I'll show you. They wanted me to do the whole show like this, but I told them I refused. There's my. Why would they want me to look at? I got a nice microphone and everything.
It's like the great
You know what?
Space Spectre.
You could start off like that, kind of like you could pretend that you're coming in from another dimension. I'll say, and then I'll introduce you like Frank Oliver Baines coming in from a different dimension. Then you have that effect, and then you kind of phase it out. What do you think? Let's try it.
I like it.
Let's give a test run. And now we have Frank Oliver Baines coming in from a different dimension.
Greetings, Earthlings. I'm not full
Yeah,
of
no,
material
get rid of it now.
So nobody poke me.
Yeah, and then get rid of it.
I like that. That's a great.
Can you get rid of it?
Yeah, but it takes have to do this to get rid of it.
Nice.
Okay, but don't. Well, you just kind of play it by ear. Oh, okay. What are you doing now?
changing
I
location.
like it. Now, that is production value right there. Yeah,
Hey,
that's
man.
great.
Now we need all we need is some music.
Well, I'll put that into the YouTube version, but what? Yeah, we need that. Yeah, I'm probably going to do a remake of all the intro and the ending.
I love the intro. It's great. And Brian, that's you singing on there, yeah?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Recognize your voice.
Well, that's all I was doing when you're up here. We were singing Tragically Hip, remember?
Yeah, I was asking him, can you tell me another story about your interaction? And then he starts singing Tragically Hip again in the middle of the forest. I'm trying to get some documentary tape, and he's, no, let's jam. Let's jam out here.
Are we on
Hey, man,
Facebook
that was
Live?
a-
What are we going to hold up? What are we going to wait for Christmas? We're supposed to be on Facebook Live so we can show us.
Oh yeah, I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it on live. So okay, so what we're going to do is, hey, don't forget to do that thing where you come in though from another dimension.
Oh, you want to make me?
Wait.
You do anything to humiliate me, won't you? All right, I'll do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So
I'll do it.
Come on, get Facebook Live going, Brian.
Facebook Live.
yeah, I'm doing it.
And
I'm doing
and
it.
then everybody's got to go share, because if you don't share, we only get like five.
Oh yeah. Do you want to share with any group that you want to share with?
Yeah, let me log in here.
Jim.
You gotta share it to from the Pork and Bean Show where it's going to be posted.
Great.
So you need to go to the Pork and Bean Show group,
Gotcha.
and then when it pops up, you'll be able to share it from there.
Oh, geez. Wasn't, there we go. There we go. All right, cool.
Uh-oh. I got a new computer and it doesn't look like it wants me to share in a group.
So, did you guys?
You can't share in the group until you're on Facebook Live.
Hey, you guys, did Facebook change
Oh, right. Okay, hold on.
its version on you, and they're getting rid of the classic version and putting in the new one? Did it force you guys to do that? Because it forced me to do that, and I hate it. I hate the new one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're Nazis.
No, you know what? No, I can't do it for some reason.
You can't do.
Can you do it? I can't seem to share on Facebook. I just got a new tower, and it doesn't look like it wants me to do that.
What do you mean? You can't go Facebook Live?
This
Well-
could be a problem.
I can't. It says live on Facebook,
What happened?
but now it says share in a group.
Just go live on Facebook. You're already in the group. You're already on. What do you call it? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I can't. The Pork and Bean Show doesn't come up, and then wait a minute. Oh, okay. Hold on. I can. Did you share in your group, Jim, yet?
Nope.
Okay, I can. I'm sharing in yours. Okay, I shared in yours. But maybe it's because. Wonder why my Pork and Bean Show doesn't come up.
So what do you shared it on his page, on his profile page?
Yeah, hang on. Yes, no, on his group page.
Nice.
Oh. Can you share it to individual people?
Hang on.
Huh? Yes. Because if you can share it to individual people, then I can share. You share it to my profile, then I can share it back to Pork and Beans.
Okay, well, hang on a minute.
Because it says you're streaming.
Okay, I'm in. I should be in Jim's group right now. So let me share to you.
Or you from well, if you're in his group, then you should be able to share to the Pork and Beans group.
Yeah, I wonder why the pork and beans group won't go. I just got a new tower, and for some reason the pork and beans group is. I guess we don't raid.
Look it up. Do a search for it. It'll come up.
Okay, so what am I doing here?
That is a good.
No, it just says stop live stream. Uh-oh. Why can't I share with another group now?
You don't show.
Are you in the pork and beans group, Jim?
I'm just on my regular feed, and I see it shared with the Society of Euphomet.
No, but are you in the pork and beans group?
I am. Yep.
Are you in? Can you share it? Can you share it from your page?
Yeah. Let me try here.
And then because I don't know what's going on there's something going on with, I got a new system going on here.
Technical difficulties.
It looks like it's not going to let me share that at all, actually. It being on my group.
Is your group private?
Oh, really?
It is.
No, it's not. Is your group private?
Mm-hmm.
If your group's private, you can't share it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what should I do?
Can't you share pork and beans?
It just says stop live stream. I can't, okay, I'm going to stop live stream. And I'm going to try live on Facebook. How about on a friend's timeline? I'll try to share it on your timeline, okay? Mr. Beans?
Okay, let's try that.
You know, every once in a while, Michael, a star starts shining through your eye.
You need permission to upload a video here. What?
Well, look, I'm looking like those black-eyed children. Look at that.
With stars in your
We never start on time anyway,
no
Jim, so. We've never ever started on time.
I'm fully fed, and I have my coffee here.
Okay.
I'm good.
I wonder why.
I can't. What you mean?
Can you
You
take
bought
it
a
out?
whole new computer, and then you're going to start a show without even testing it.
right?
Pro level, man.
Okay, I should be able to share it from my page, right?
Theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically.
Share Facebook Live video link.
Well, this was fun. This is an indication of what's coming up. So, Jim, what are you going to talk about, man? While he's bumbling around, tell us what you're going to talk about. Give us a clue.
I have no idea. I was just gonna, kind of spin off whatever you guys were chatting about. It's so loose and great.
Yeah.
Your format here.
We're
Jim's
talking
got-
about fraud and fiasco. That's,
Oh, boy.
That's our main theme.
Yeah. Well, I can get in on that. I'm thinking.
Everything's fake,
yeah, you
man.
can. Okay, hey,
Everything's
okay.
fake.
Now,
Everything's an illusion. Huh?
oh, start a watch party in the pork and bean show. Okay, good. Okay, it should be in the pork and bean show now. Let's see.
I'm not getting any sort of notification about it.
Well, I just did it. I
don't know if you want to.
Are we in there?
Watch party. Yeah, you want a watch party.
Are we in there?
I don't know. I have to go back and find Pork and Bean Show because I was waiting for it to pop up on my page and it didn't happen.
It's not popping up, Brian.
I'm seeing it on mine in the pork and bean show group.
Want to do that? Want to do a preview of the pandemic?
Wait a minute.
That'll get
we got to get started here. Is it in the pork and bean show?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It does say that this is a private video, may only be viewed by people that the video owner selected.
They're gonna make it public, Brian.
How do I do that? Well, isn't that everybody in the group?
I don't know.
Oh, I got the watch party. Hold on. I think. Just now. Yeah, hold on. It says no video.
No video. Oh, add video. Wait a minute.
I got nothing on the Pork and Bean Show so far.
I clicked on it. Oh, you got to reload it, Brian. I mean, Michael.
Okay, reload site.
I see it. Something on the Pork and Bean Show
Yeah, but I'm not
going on.
Okay, so I clicked on it, and it's the video, but it's black. There's nothing.
All right, this private video, there'll be people, the viewers selected. Well, this watch party, you didn't add anybody to the watch party, so that's not going to work.
Oh boy.
That's cool. So don't do it. Get out of Facebook sharing, right? Facebook Live. Get out of there and start all over again. But don't do the what you call it. Just add it to a group.
Yeah, but what group? Because it doesn't seem to want to go on the Pork and Bean Show.
Does it have any group? I kind of like
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Because it's just pork and beans. It's not the pork and beans. Okay, it should be coming on there now.
You're going through an ascension process. It's going to hurt.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'm reloading Pork and Beans Show.
It's not gone yet. Hold on.
I want star quality. When I said star quality, I didn't mean like this.
Hey, Brian. No.
Okay. Now it should be setting up now, pretty quick.
What does that mean? They should be setting up now. What does that mean?
Well, it should be on there pretty quick.
I'm reloading.
Oh. Says no.
It should be live now.
Let me refresh the refresh.
Oh, hey, yeah, there I am. Yeah, excellent. There you are. Look at you guys.
Okay. So now, Michael, you can start sharing to everybody else after we kind of get on there and do our thing. Okay. So let me go back here.
I found it. Yay, it's here. I found it.
Oh, hey, yeah, there I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you've got it on speaker view. If it's on speaker view, you can't see the whole cluster, and therefore the magnificence of my what do you call it?
Ineptitude.
Yeah, you're not going to see that.
We can see it quite clearly.
You can see it, but
okay.
But on the Facebook Live, you can't see it. You can't see how beautiful I am.
Okay, so do you want to? Okay, so hold on a minute. Okay, so we're going to take.
You have to put it on group view or
okay.
What do you call it? Gallery view.
Hey, Matt, are we playing live on Facebook? Are we playing live on there? That's all I care about now.
I'm trying to tell you, you got to get.
Don't worry about what view we got. Don't worry about it for now.
What if you're going to introduce?
Okay, so how about I take? How about I take Jim off? And what are you going to do there, Mr. Wellington? You going to just stick around?
I wish I could minimize myself and stay minimized.
Okay, so how about I take? How about? Well.
Let me turn this. Okay, I gotta go back over here. Are you sure you don't? Are you sure?
So,
are you sure you don't want me to play the news?
Yeah, you can play that news. Yeah, we actually do play that. But hold on a bit. But first of all, I got to take Jim off because we got to do our little introduction. Okay. So Jim, you're gonna hang around, right? But we're gonna mute you or do something, right?
After the other thing, right? Go.
No, we're going to do our little
Pork and Bean Show, everybody. I'm Frank Oliver Beans, and this over here.
What are you doing?
On that side. On that side.
No. I'm
pork.
No.
Pork. And down here is Jim Perry.
Okay, you can still hear us, Jim?
Yeah.
Hey, we haven't started. We haven't started yet.
And Beef. What
are you doing?
Williamton. Beef Williamton is our new.
Mr. Beef, do you want me to take you off or on? Okay, I'll leave you on for now. Okay.
Yeah, if I feel like you're getting something to eat, I'll.
Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Port Cunningham, and I'm here with my honorable, distinguished co-host who is just materializing from another dimension. It should be with us at any time, Frank Oliver Baines. And of course, today we have
Hail to
assistant.
all from the outer
Oh.
space realm
Hello.
of pork and beans.
Greetings, Mr. Beans, from your ventures off into the far reaches of the universe.
My eyes are wet.
Welcome back to
I was
the
laughing
3D
so hard,
reality.
I'm crying.
So this is the Pork and Bean Show, and hey, today we got a new kind of thing going on. We've got Mr. Beef Wellington has joined the team. He's going to be monitoring questions in the Pork and Beans group. So we're going to do the letter of the day from one of your questions he'll select, and any comments he will also be rudely interrupting us from time to time.
Oh, we got Renee Sharon. Good morning,
Ah.
she says. He said.
Sounds good.
Friends
So,
with Mike Bedowitz.
anyway, so let me think. So we've done this show for what, like about 14 or 15 episodes. So what do you like about the show there, Frank?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Or you
Is your
talking
name
to
Frank?
me?
Well, your name's Frank,
What I
right?
like about the show, I like the way it's well produced. We got the best production crew in the world.
Okay.
Except for me, I'm not doing too good. I kind of look.
Well, you're not fully materialized yet. Can you come back to the 3D reality?
Good, yeah. See if I can do it. See if I can do it
Mind control.
now.
Yes. Okay, here he is. Frank Oliver Beans is back. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Yeah, I was sick, and I was actually that was
Okay.
that wasn't really yeah. I was trying to think of any redeeming qualities that we had, but I couldn't
Best
think of any,
opening
which
we've
is
ever done. I'm so impressed.
really.
It is. It was good. It was a great opening. Solid as a rock. Keep going. We got some great guests today.
This is a rock. Hey, you want to do this? You want to do? Oh, you can't even see it now with my background.
What?
It's the It's SASQUATCH.
Sasquatch.
It's kind of coming in.
Get Beef
Anyway,
Wellington there. Give the answer to Sasquatch.
I'll tell you what, Beef. Here's your first. Duty. Pick a page between 40 and 100, and we'll pick out a SASQUATCH.
36.
That between 40 and 100. 36.
I like 36. Come on. Okay, so
How about 63?
77.
77.
Yes.
Do you remember the one that we read that was like we were telling the future or whatever, and it said do not do not tell the future or something, and it was boy, that was not good. 77. Uh-oh. This is an actual paragraph here, guys.
Uh-oh.
So, okay. In collecting food, I find a peaceful, meditative activity that has rich rewards. What do you like to do to relax, to calm yourself? Is it warm spring or cool river? What you might love? I always treasure my time in the forest. It is meant to go on, but now it is shrinking. What would it take for you to love the forest as much as I do? I love it as my home and as my sanctuary. Maybe those who love the forest like me will take their place as friends of this majestic place. Attack Took. Boy, those names are a tongue twister, of the Sasquatch people. I guess it's just kind of saying take care of the forest and find your, that's where you go to kind of find yourself. I do anyway, in the forest, and meditate and connect or whatever. I guess it's basically saying that. What do you say, Mr. Beans?
I say Georgia Bigfoot Society should watch this. So I'm going to send them a share.
Oh, are you monitoring the comments there, Mr. Wellington?
I am. There's only one. It says good morning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
There's 12 people watching at this point.
oh, okay.
Oh, good.
And
So as soon as we say something important, or we're given the news, or the mailbag, one or the other.
well, that's what we're going to do. Actually, the mailbag is going to be from comments from the Pork and Bean Show.
Oh, okay.
Somebody asked a question. So, yeah. So, anything new with you there, Mr. Beans, or?
I took a shower. That was new. I thought I was.
Oh, okay.
I thought, well, I have enough time to eat a little snack or take a shower, and I thought, well, I better take a shower and look fresh. Do I look?
Yeah.
Do I look fresh?
You do, until our guest came on and showed you up with this fancy equipment. Have you
No,
seen?
it
You've
is
seen
so
that, right?
demoralizing. You know, just when you
mean-
think you're the king of the world,
I mean-
somebody comes along and just outclasses you.
I mean, that's all you had going for you.
Jim Perry.
I mean, you don't have the fancy.
Give you
You don't have the
revenge.
fancy background.
What?
You don't have the fancy backgrounds. I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
the big announcer voice.
The big announcer voice.
Your comments are
Welcome.
I mean, that microphone was kind of like sort of like your soother.
It's a cheap microphone.
just-
It's not one of those. It's not one of those. fancy ones. You got to get good microphones. Cost a couple $100.
Hey,
I'm getting a download right now. Do you see that?
You're getting a download.
Can you see that? I'm getting a
Look, you
download
have
right now.
You have a halo. You have a mechanical halo.
Ooh.
And your fingers. Your
Yeah,
fingers
yeah.
look little.
Downloads come.
we have our first question, you guys.
Oh, great.
It's from Sam.
We do.
He says
What the hell are you guys doing?
pretty close. He says there's a dish in the South called cowboy beans, which is pork and beans with ground beef in it. Can we call this lineup cowboy beans?
Yeah. Cowboy beans.
Our lineup?
Yeah,
What do you mean, the show, or just our today's lineup?
No, I don't know. Sam?
Yeah, why not? You can call it anything you want. I mean, hey. I'm sure we've been called lots of stuff. So anyway, a few years back, a really nice guy that I made we bonded immediately, good friend of mine, I consider now, named Jim Perry, came up and visited me and interviewed me for his show Euphomet, which is, he interviews people with paranormal topics. What?
I said Euphomet. That's pretty cool.
Who's talking? Yeah, and he came up and interviewed me about the Sasquatch up here and whatever, and we hit it off and everything, and I thought, hey, he's going to be a great guest because he's got so many different topics that we can discuss, and they're all kind of intertwined and intermingled anyway, and he's also got some Sasquatch stuff. So, how about we bring Jim Perry on?
Okay.
Can we do that?
If you want.
He's trying to get on.
You didn't want to play the news segment first?
Sure. Play the news segment. Hey, Jim, do you want to watch the news?
Yeah, I sure do.
Let's watch the news. Let's watch the news segment, sure.
Hold on, I have to find the news first. And to do that, I have to do that. Okay.
See, maybe this could be Beef Wellington, one of Beef Wellington's duties moving forward.
No.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Pork and Beans News of the Day segment.
First part thing you gotta remember is, okay, so some people were, they were doing some stuff, and other people were like, hey, other people like, hey, yeah, they should do, that stuff. It's good that they're doing that stuff, and then the other people like, I don't think they should be doing that stuff, and then the thing, and it's the thing, the one, the do so things are like, what I'm trying to say is that, In conclusion, I have no idea.
Thank you, Rodney Norman.
That was
Now you
that was
get the
scintillating, edge of your
latest-
seat stuff. That was great.
Whoa.
Oh no, what happened? What happened? Stop that. Stop that.
Is he still going?
Something else. That was Ronald McDonald goes to Burger King, gets beat up. You don't want to hear that.
Hey, Mr. Beef, that's the funny part. You're supposed to laugh now.
Oh, see, sorry. I was trying to figure out how to do something technical, and I was looking it up, so I wasn't
Oh.
paying attention.
Wait a minute. You're taking your job seriously. I'm a little concerned. Anyway,
Temporary thing.
Jim Perry came up, like I said, a couple of years ago, interviewed me for his show Euphemet, which I really loved. And I got to admit, I've done a lot of interviews in my time, and he's probably the worst. No, I'm just how yours was one of the joking. Very professional. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And of course, we made fast friends. And hey, I got to sing the Tragically Hip for you, and
You sure
that's
did.
the whole reason I really had. That's the whole reason I really had you up here.
I know it. Yeah.
Well,
I noticed the parts of the forest you were taking me were cathedral-esque. So just for sound quality, right? And I felt like, oh, that's nice. He's considering, the quality of the interview tape and the audio fidelity for my tape that I'm collecting. And no, it was just so that you could, sound better while you're singing. It was just for the acoustics of it.
absolutely. I was trying to find stairwells, but there's not that many in the forest. Have you ever sang in a stairwell?
Right? Yeah. Angelic.
Great acoustics in there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, why don't you tell us some reflections of? Yeah, tell us your reflections of what you remember when you came up there, because you were feeling the energy and whatever, right?
Yeah.
You and I'm sorry, what was your assistant's name again?
Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea Weber Smith.
Chelsea, right? Beautiful lady. Yeah, I don't like her because she's a better baseball player than me. Remember that?
Yeah, they're a great baseball player. And Chelsea actually has a show of their own now called American Hysteria. And so, great podcaster, great writer, great baseball player. And, I guess our first impression was, we had chatted online beforehand. I had heard some of your interviews on other shows. Our friend Richard Serrett, I believe, is where I first heard you. And
right.
At the end of the day, my show is different than a lot of different shows because it's a documentary. And so I have to go to these places and I have to embed myself with these folks like yourself for a matter of hours and sometimes days. And that requires a lot of trust on both ends, right? Like folks are accepting a stranger to come into their circle and to tell them, some of the deepest, most emotional moments of their relationship with the unknown and the metaphysical and the spiritual. And conversely, on the other side, it requires a certain level of trust from me and whoever is with me, because essentially you were sort of a stranger and we were heading deep into the British Columbia forest with you in your vehicle and just saying like, this will probably be fine. This will be okay. And so in that regard, immediately, I'm being glib because obviously the intention, the tone, that sense of energy, even as we were driving deeper into the forest, was palpable. It was so intense and such a rich feeling, a quality. And Chelsea, I remember even being a skeptic. I don't want to speak for them, but having that sense as well and talking about it. I remember all three of us listening to the radio, you starting to do a little singing, us driving through, us really like jamming and vibing off, having a great time, like we were a bunch of high schoolers or something.
Yeah.
And starting to really feel that buzz, man. That's what it feels like, right? It's a buzz. There's something to it. It's so energetic. So yeah, that was my first impressions going in there. And then it's just, I don't know, it just got deeper and deeper, that connection that we felt together, I think. And as we descended into the forest and he started showing us, sort of evidence of the Sasquatch family's communication methods and introducing us to the different personalities and their symbolism, I felt like we kind of traveled into a different realm of reality, almost in some sense. I was able to
Yeah.
really lose myself in your story and connect with it in a way that anything felt possible at that time. And so, frankly, that's what I try to do in this process of collecting these interviews and going out and creating these documentaries, as I need to most appropriately get into the same headspace and sort of become one with that person that I'm interviewing. I need to really tap into any sort of empathetic qualities that I may have and lean into it as hard as I can and try to be there for that person with that person and relive those instances. And so in that way, you're a great storyteller and a great host in leading us, sort of shepherding us into this realm of reality and into these experiences that you had. And so it was a blast, man. I can't wait to get back up there. I can't wait to continue telling the story with you in some way, some fashion. And it's one of the episodes that people ask about still the most.
Oh, wow. What an honor. Yeah. Well, it's all from the heart, right?
Yeah.
All
Right.
from the heart. That's the Sasquatch teaching. So yeah, it was surprising because I remember I asked Chelsea specifically, and she said she could feel it, but I didn't realize she was a skeptic. She is, eh? She's like a
Yeah. Well, so Chelsea.
about Sasquatch or about many things.
Well, maybe skeptic is the wrong word. She's more scientific minded. Let's put it that way. So,
Okay, yeah.
She grew up with a, I don't want to speak for her story, but, they grew up with a father that was a believer in everything and anything, I think, like, to the nth degree and an eccentric perhaps. And I think there's a quality of that in, perhaps the relationship that one would push away from that and try to develop their own relationship to reality. And so I think I'm probably talking way too much about their story, but I think to say that a skeptical or scientific minded person who believes in a certain version of a certain version of reality like that, develops a relationship in their own way. And so for someone like that to instantly have feelings or a charge as well, I mean, I'm prone to believe in things, even though I don't know what I believe, and even that I'm not quite sure of. I'm prone to dive in and want to believe in things and also accept other people's realities or stories as they are, and respecting them for being important, right? Your story is not my story. My story is not yours necessarily. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean either one of them is more important than the other. And if I believe anything, maybe that's what it is, right? And so, it was a really special experience being up there. It's something I'm never going to forget. And the connection you have to that place, that Sasquatch family, and the care they have for you and how they have shown that was evident, and it resonated
Oh, wow.
deeply.
Yeah. I can't wait to tell you some of the news. Oh, there's your little dog. What's the guy's name? Little dog's name?
Oh yeah, that's Nora back there.
Hey, Nora.
Hey, Nora. Nora.
How you doing? Oh, she's a diva.
Yep.
She is a diva.
She's posed for enough photos. This is the first time she's ever actually. So I've been doing these live Zooms for my Patreon audience for Euphomet, And this is the first time I think she has ever shown up on video. So
Well, hey, she knows the energy's good, so.
she does. Yep. There you go. It is that like sort of we're talking about forest, we're talking about Sasquatch people, we're talking about a
Yeah.
relationship to something that is much more than animal, but something greater almost, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's the dog energy coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. So when you first came, I mean, I know that, I mean, you're very open-minded, and you know, and you obviously can read people or whatever, their energy and stuff. So you knew I was being truthful, but you were very kind of surprised. It was kind of like a whole new avenue of a relationship between people and the Sasquatch. Yeah, I mean, something you never really even considered. You had said. So but I think that you kind of saw what was going on, obviously, like you said, when you were there. So what changed with you when you went home, and what has anything continued to develop, or is there a different outlook on the Sasquatch or who they are or whatever? Or
Yeah. I mean, I think I encountered a change that was even broader than Sasquatch. And I think it was this awakening to an idea that, let's call it the phenomenon, right? That of which is unknown to our present construct of 3D reality, right?
Right.
Or popular consensus reality. I think I discovered more innately that it has an ability to reach out to us for connection and leave a myriad of symbols and signs and breadcrumbs and narratives and suggestions and advice that, when not paid attention to, when not focused on, when discounting, when disbelieving, perhaps completely gets lost in the noise of whatever the construct is. And so for me, it, I think, cracked me open a little bit more to the possibility of things within my own life that could be much more mysterious than coincidence. So things like synchronicity being a big part of our
Right.
reality tunnel instead of coincidence. Things like, you know, sort of spirit energy or ghosts reaching out in certain modalities potentially that you could discount very easily if you went in with a very skeptical mindset. And so I think, you know, not belief, but open-mindedness and an acceptance for different qualities of communication or signaling to come through to you, and forgetting the, you know, sort of the bullshit, forgetting the baggage, forgetting the expectations, the societal, you know, sort of expectations for how you're supposed to behave and what is real and what is not, forgetting all that shit.
Yeah.
And just paying attention to what you're feeling and what is coming through you, and saying, what if that is a spirit? What if that is a Sasquatch? And then, you know, sort of seeing where those stories go and where they develop, you know, because there's evidence, both anecdotally and scientifically and historically, that more often than not, these experiences are shared by many, 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 many people, right? And these modalities of different communications, whether it be from Sasquatch or ghosts or potential, you know, NHI, you know, extraterrestrials or fairies, even, you know, these different modalities and communication sources for these, I don't want to call them creatures, but just energies. That
Yeah.
there's a shared sort of communication going on there, seemingly. And that if we just look
Yes.
around at other people's stories and acknowledge those, they tell us something about ourselves and our communication that's going on. So I think that's what it did. Yeah, long story short,
Yeah.
cracked me open, allowed
Yeah.
more stuff to get in, Brian. It really did.
And to look at yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, right? because I think because I found that like once you really have a connection with Sasquatch and you're walking further down the road or whatever, it really does become, even though you learn by default a lot of stuff about them and even personalities and their regular lives and all that, it really is about you. They're really trying to reintroduce you to your true nature, as a universal being or whatever. But so no, that really is true. There's no doubt about it. And so, just the way you said that in more eloquently than I did, I just kind of recapped it, is absolutely, what I would have thought, and hopefully would have happened with you, because that's amazing. That's amazing, because that's exactly my findings too. So that's really good. That's really good. So Jim Perry, as a young man, what struck your interest in the supernatural or whatever? How did you? How were you open to it? Was it your parents supporting you, or was it, or just tell us how? The seeds were planted in a young Jim Perry.
Yeah, what's funny, as I go along, I remember more and more of what attracted me or could have been a signal that this was going to be such a big part of my life. And so some of the things that I've remembered recently is, this has been around me since I can remember, since my earliest memories. This idea that something bigger is going on than what we're told. A couple examples of this is when I was a child, I'd be sitting there watching TV or whatever, or playing, and my mom would be, buzzing around or cleaning the house or making some food or whatever, and she'd walk over to the phone and pick it up and immediately start talking to my grandma. I would be at my grandma's house. The same thing would happen. She'd go to the phone, pick it up, and start talking to my mom. No rings needed in their relationship. These two were connected in a way that I've never seen before. They had an ESP or some sort of side link, seemingly, that allowed them to be in contact whenever they needed to. I remember this just came up to me now. So like I'm saying, these anecdotal experiences, they were so often and such a big part of my life that it didn't feel like a big deal. So I didn't really put an emphasis on remembering them as something as notable. But I remember, I have to verify the story. It's the first time I've said it out loud in probably years. So this is an exclusive Brian Bland Pork and Beans show. I remember I was at a grocery store with my mom. I was a little kid. She blows out her knee in public. And she's on the ground and people are coming and trying to assist her. And all of that felt pretty traumatic. But immediately, like my grandma knows to go to the hospital or to check on my mom, before she even gets there. Right. So there needed to be no conversation had. There was just an inherent leak. And the more I, asked about this later in life, I realized that there was a tradition in my family, a Native American tradition of white witchcraft passed on generation to generation in my lineage, and that my grandmother and my mother had inherited certain abilities, they believed. So this was their mythos and their mythology that they formed around this ability. But other things would occur. At my grandparents' house, and seeing ball lightning, form out of the television set and then fly past me, hang a hard corner and leave out the kitchen door, and me chasing it the entire day. So I would say experiences like that, coupled with, sort of an awareness or exposure to Christianity, my grandfather being a preacher and an Episcopal preacher, and witnessing folks speaking in tongues at a very early age, since I can remember, and how that still to me felt weirder and feels weirder than ball lightning or psychic phenomenon, because we're talking about channeling, we're talking about and so that, and being obsessed with Bigfoot books and Sasquatch and every time we were driving through a forest, growing up here in the Pacific Northwest, that was often, looking into the tree line to see if I could see any activity, right? From as early as I can remember. So
Yeah.
these things I've carried with me as mythology for my entire life, whether I even realize it or not. It is more natural and more accustomed to my specific reality tunnel than anything else, really. And I feel that the more I'm open to that, the more individuals with sort of curious minds or active, experiential, unknown realities of themselves, they find their way to me, or I find my way to them. And because of that, it just increases the propensity for my reality to be like this, right? It's just I'm around folks that are interested and believers and experiencers every day, all day long. Even during this time, we find a way through Zoom and podcasting and everything else. And so, I would say that's how it all started, and that's how it all continues, really.
Yeah. So, your fascination with Sasquatch, how did that start? Do you remember? Just you saw a book or something, or
it was
or the
books.
Patterson film, or
yeah, it was totally books, and it was a rerun of In Search Of, the episode where they covered the Patterson Gimlin film. And
with Leonard Nimoy.
Yep. And so that was foundational to my development there. And then when I was a little earlier, it was Art Bell. I couldn't sleep as a kid. I believe I probably had ADHD, like undiagnosed, and I was just active and creative as I am today. And I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia, and my parents would try to remedy that with, okay, well, let's try to listen to the radio. We'll start with a little like rock. We'll see how that goes, right? It's like wasn't working. I was getting bored. Let's try classical. Okay, we'll do that. Let's try talk radio. And that was okay. And something about the conversation and hearing that and being engaged and falling asleep to it worked really well. And then as I kind of experimented and tuned the dial even more, this was about 1994, 1995, right? I came upon Art Bell. And ever since then, hearing those very early conversations with people like, Moorhead, and hearing the Sierra sounds and things like that only enhanced my curiosity at a young age about this is a real thing. This exists. And how cool would it be to experience this myself? Again, the mythos around my family and the paranormal is sort of endless. And when it comes to Sasquatch, my grandpa Jim, he was a logger, right, in the Pacific Northwest. And he would come back with all sorts of stories of cryptid-like creatures, whether it be like sort of a bear that could walk on its hind legs that only had 3 paws, or whether it was a Sasquatch throwing rocks at him, from up above. So he would come back with all sorts of experiences from what he, his life in the woods was like. So again, Sasquatch was a main figure in this personal mythos around what could be real and what's out there. And I was never dissuaded from believing in these things or looking for them. And in fact, conversely, I think I was more encouraged because my grandparents wanted to talk about it. My parents wanted to talk about it. Everyone was excited about what else could be there. And so in that way, I'm probably really goddamn lucky for one.
Yeah.
And it took me until deep into the process of Euphomet to have to learn what it felt like to not potentially have that support, and to learn through trial and error, through failure, through self-consciousness, self-awareness, what others actually feel like when that's not the case, when they haven't experienced sort of lifelong support in this, when they're maybe in geographical areas or familial relationships that require them to not ever talk about this stuff. And that if they do, it's the end of a career or end of a marriage or whatever that may, real stakes people go through when they're not, when they don't grow up in that environment where anything can be possible. And so it wasn't until much later on that I learned that.
It's interesting because it's kind of reversed with you. It's kind of like you hit the skeptics or whatever and stuff, and then growing up, and then you meet like-minded people because you seek them out. But it was kind of the reverse for you. You had the like-minded people, and then you started, oh, these people don't think this way or whatever. So it was kind of, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So did do you remember any of the highlights that your grandfather told you as far as encounters or whatever, or neat stuff?
Yeah, I remember one story that he told me where, he got a kick in like taking people out to his work sites. I remember one time in particular, he took me out to a site in a water truck, and he had a good time driving on, super steep inclines in that water truck and scaring the hell out of us kids, because we thought that we're done. Like, you can't drive up a hill like this. And so he got a kick about like sort of exposing and scaring people and freaking people out in the woods. When we go camping, it was, campfire stories about all of these sort of things, and probably eating pork and beans. Right. And just that very wholesome, what you would imagine a grandfather-grandchild relationship, scaring the shit out of them as kids. He told me one story that on one such occasion, him and my grandmother went out and they were in their car, and he at one point in time was an amateur, I guess an amateur stock car racer, because back in the day, and probably up into Canada as well, before NASCAR and things like this, or even maybe when it was going on, people would have their own tracks and their dirt tracks and everything else, and people would head out there and they'd race and they'd do their thing. Well, he was one of these guys. So he was doing some of that maneuvers up on some of the logging roads with my grandma in the car, kind of showing off when they were younger. And they go to this clearing, they stop, and they start hearing, little pings, and the pings kind of get louder, and they notice rocks are showering down on the car from up above, the hillside above.
Yeah.
And the rocks kind of kept getting bigger and bigger, and so he gets out and takes a look up the hill, and there's a large Sasquatch standing on the top of the hill. And he's got rocks in his hand, and he keeps throwing them. And at that point, jumps in the car, peels out faster than he ever went before, and gets the hell out of there. I can't remember if my grandma had that same experience, if she saw the same thing. She probably would say so. And, that's the kind of stuff that was loaded in my head back in the day. And that's the kind of adventure and mystery. Now, listen, I preface this with saying that he was a storyteller, right? And that he was into building mythology and campfire stories and everything else. So despite my belief that these experiences are real and something's going on, he could have just been, pulling our leg, telling a story. But based off the acceptance that my family has of these things, I like to wager that there was more truth to that story than just pure fantasy.
Well, from my experience, it sounds real, because I've had experience where they've been up on hills pinging little rocks off your cars, or throwing them down beside you. And it's kind of like, with me, it's a hi, we're here, hello, hi, we're here, hello, how you doing, kind of thing. Because, you said pinging. He obviously weren't throwing boulders off the hood of his car, right? It was probably just to get his attention, I imagine. He may not have known that, but it sounds truthful to me, actually. So what was his, so did he have a lot of experience with them? Or what do you think he thought that they were? Is he still alive?
He's not.
Your grandfather?
He passed away. Yeah, he passed away in 99, I believe.
What do you think?
But he spent,
what do
you think he thought about it?
What do you think? What do you think his opinion? What do you think he thought they were, and what was his understanding of them? Or did he talk to you in depth like that? Did he just think they were, like big hairy gorillas running around in the woods, or what did you think they were?
That's a great question. Listen, I my grandfather, he grew up in Arkansas, before he came to the Pacific Northwest. and he was always involved in hunting and fishing. And I was exposed to those things very early on with him. There's a part of my life that sort of started with him and ended with him in terms of my own hunting and fishing and things of that nature. And I would guess that he would think them being some sort of flesh and blood creature, and that them, sort of sharing a place with the bears and deer, the birds, and the various other wildlife creatures. I don't know if he would. I would guess that he did not develop a sort of spiritual relationship with him. Again, this was, on one side, my grandfather was the outdoorsman who heard all these stories and or told all these stories and had these experiences. On the other side was my, devout Christian grandfather who was, speaking in tongues. And so there was, spirit and sort of soul. I don't know. There was a split there between probably perspectives. So yeah, I would say he would wager that they were flesh and blood creatures and as real as you and I in that way. Yeah.
So back up. So it's you're talking about the same. Okay, go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, how's it going, man? I love your stuff here. I have some sort of general questions. Is how many shows do you do a month?
That's a great question. So it's changed now. Now I do an interview show through Zoom while I can't go anywhere, and I do those once a week, sometimes twice a week, and about once a month I'll release a documentary episode that I've taped back at the very first of the year. And actually,
how long has this been going on?
The documentary version of the show has been going on since 2018. Brian, you were the 5th episode of that, and so you were very early on in the series history. And previous to that, I hosted a radio talk show that started about the end of 2014, I believe. And that expired once I started the documentary series. Now the documentary series was every other week. It was at a point in time during the first season, which you were a part of, Brian. I was on a podcast network, so the show got picked up. It got bought, even. It wasn't even mine. And, I had the requisite budget and staffing and everything else to basically travel out every week to a different location and produce these things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that a blessing?
Yeah.
You must have had a lot of fun.
Oh, it was the best. And, listen, it still was. After the first season, we agreed to part ways because I believed that with my audience and with my listenership, that it was more worth it for me and maybe for the network even to part ways and just do our own thing. And for me to really strike out as an independent once again and figure out ways to come up with that same budget to go do the same thing. And so I did it, maybe with not as much comfortability, but, it got to the point before the pandemic where I was still going out and I was traveling wherever I wanted to meet with whoever I wanted and producing these documentary features. And I got to tell you, since I've had to stop doing that because of the pandemic, it's been really an adjustment period trying to get used to doing the interview thing again. Cause it's hard, man. It's, you guys know this is tough to be as prepared as you need to be to have,
Oh, sorry. We're not prepared.
to have the type of curiosity and stuff. So 2 weeks ago, I've been having, I don't know what I'm thinking, but I've been having professors on and stuff, so a couple of weeks ago I had Dean Radin on,
Well, he's
2 weeks
amazing.
from now, 2 weeks ago I have Rupert Sheldrake coming on to talk about morphic resonance.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
These are.
Hey, and you could have Port Cunningham on too. I mean,
Port Cunningham.
a whole new level.
Yeah, Port Cunningham.
Whole new different level from those guys.
Well, I was asking you those questions to kind of build up to your life is moved in that direction, and it's sort of almost like you're being fed incredibly high quality people, and you're having, this stuff going on. Do you feel like there's a mission, a a cavalcade of coincidence that has pushed you in this position and formed you as sort of like this mouthpiece for the paranormal and the awakening and stuff like that? In
Yeah,
other words, are you on a mission from God?
yeah, I know. I noticed that in your intro you have the Blues Brothers, and that's one of my favorite movies ever. Boy, that's a great one. That's a great question. There's a part of me that, because my level of self-consciousness is always a part of what I do, I think that I would hazard to say that I felt I was an important mouthpiece or a representative or anything like that. But I do think that I've been shaped and molded to be something like that, right? Like I do feel, because
Absolutely.
that level of empathy has been shared with me and that has become a part of me, that at least I know that in these situations I can, with great respect and responsibility, hold these stories of individuals very carefully, with sort of all my heart and being. And because of my technical training in narrative and story development, help tell these stories to others that are uninitiated, or skeptical, or maybe just entertained by these things, for them to actually consume something nutritious from it, right? So to listen to Brian's episode and go, wow, I don't know what I believe about Sasquatch, but I do believe that relationship is real. And I do believe in Brian. And I do believe that he's getting something positive out of this relationship that is now filtering out to others in a positive way. So those are the things I want my show to always be about. Sure, it'll be curious. There'll be a little bit of titillation with how scary some things can be in this field, because that's where it brings a lot of people to the table. But I always, at the end of the day, use things like the Sasquatch family, or vampirism, or alien abductions, or the experiencer phenomenon, to basically tell a human story, to tell more about the folks that are experiencing these than the phenomenon themselves, and just use it as a backdrop, use it as a storytelling method to help communicate what our human experience is to it. And that way, I think people will better be able to connect empathetically with these individuals and learn something from it and connect to it. And you said, do I think if I had a mission statement, it's to spread more like empathy, and to make people feel not as alone, right? Because this stuff can be so alienating to so many individuals, and it's that I want to combat. I think this is the first time I've considered this, from telling you guys this sort of family lineage story, but I guess I'm trying to make sure that people listening to my podcast feel like they're a part of my family in a way. I want them to have that same
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah. That's
And
beautiful,
I don't
man.
want
That's
them to
beautiful.
feel scared, and I've felt that way, but it was self-imposed, and that was something internally I had to handle, and that was outside influences pressuring me to be a certain kind of person and to live a certain life. And so I know a little bit about how that feels, but at the end of the day, I know much more about how it feels to be welcomed and embraced in the weird.
Sympathy is in the blood, and antipathy is in the nerve. That's Rudolf Steiner.
Mm.
And it's like the nerve is the blood is the feeling. The blood's the blood brothers, the family blood. And the nerve is the thought, the idea, the concept, the box, the belief, that which is kind of more harsh.
Mm.
So, people need that. People need to have a soul connection, a heart connection to stuff that's happening to them, to the wonderful, the magic stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
kind of what we're doing. You know, we're
Yeah.
we're having fun, but well, we're talking some pretty deep, profound stuff here. You know.
Yeah. Right. Right. I mean, the power of Zoom and podcasting and these groups that are forming, Facebook groups, to provide a platform for this type of thought and this type of acceptance uh, of the power of belief and its all its machinations, the internal process that goes on through the external in this way is so powerful right now. You know, I mean, I know there's a lot of I don't know, scary things that can happen with the fracturing of a narrative as well, right? It can cause strife, it can cause discourse and divisiveness. But at the same time, it also allows these little rooms, these little communities where people can congregate and share their story in safer spaces and create something new out of it. And so that way, is really a positive thing in a lot of ways. And then we can be living like a disembodied person on the beach side there.
Yeah, he's going between the third and the fifth dimension,
You guys
right in front of our eyes.
realize that Michael's not actually on the Facebook Live thing. He's only showing up on Zoom.
They're making fun of me. They're making fun of me. You know, it's all right. I'm big.
Did you want to ask something there, Mr. Wellington?
Nope.
Make a comment or something or a question?
This is
No.
fascinating.
Are we getting? By the way, we need the question of the day or the mailbag. Yeah. Yeah, we need the mailbag question to come from the comments. So somebody.
There's 21 people looking, and none of them are talking because this is so deep and so, you know.
Right?
I'm sure they're all weeping in the corner because it's.
Yeah, well, we do need a question though at some point for the mailbag thing. So what's your over? I mean, I don't know. I see like the alien thing and like a lot of the stuff is all connected because we all are connected. What's your overview? I mean, you've had so much. You know, you've had experience with ghosts and I mean, all the different paranormal kind of avenues. You've kind of like talked to people in it. What is I don't want to say big picture kind of thing, but maybe that's the way to. But what have you taken out of it? Where do you stand on things?
Yeah.
Is that too broad a question?
I mean, it is, but I understand it, and hopefully I can.
Okay.
Kind of verbalize.
Because I didn't understand it. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did because I didn't understand it. But
it's listen. It's a hard question to formally even pose because as you're asking a question like that, you're realizing its enormity, right? And its its complexities, and also the idea that maybe.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Yeah, one thing. Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry.
Look,
I'm not actually. I'm very. But I just want, as I remember it. But you did mention when you were talking that you don't believe in coincidences anymore, and that constantly connecting us to people and situations and whatever. So that we're on the same page with that, right? I mean that's so obvious, right? Yeah. Okay. I mean, so sorry about that. Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I think coincidences do occur, but I think synchronicities definitely seem to be a thing as well. I mean, so I think coincidence is like, oh, hey, I wanted a donut and you brought a donut. Like, yeah, maybe that's a coincidence. You know what I mean? But like, those instances where coincidence is too coincidental to be a coincidence, when the heightened state of connections between not only yourself but events and even other people, or even within this state of consciousness and in a dream state of consciousness, historically, past, present, future, when these things start jumbling up into a connected mesh or webbing of your own reality, then it's very hard to step away and be like, it's just, this life, it's all whatever, you know what I mean? Like when you're cognizant of it and these things keep introducing you to different ideas or through different avenues, then, yeah, it seems like there's something to it, you know. And I think the nature of it seems to heighten when folks are, you know, if frequencies are real, right? Like once folks are at a certain frequency, it seems like these incidences of synchronicities increase, in my experience. When you feel plugged in, when you're tuned in, when you're feeling that energy, sometimes when you're with somebody else or talking with somebody else and you're on the same wavelength, I feel like these things pop off, you know? And is there a trickster element to them as well? I think so. I think that they're game-like in function. I think that they're there to test our ability to challenge our own notions of what is possible. And yeah, they could be really fun in that way, but they also can be really, really terrifying sometimes for folks as well, if they're not ready for it or if it's just getting a little too close to home. So yeah, so that's what I think about synchronicities. I go on, you know, Young, of course, had a lot to say about that. Synchronicities have introduced themselves in the not just the metaphysical community, but the you know, sort of the, what do I want to say here? The psychedelic community has really taken on synchronicities in a big way over the last couple of decades as well, and tying together, you know, synchronistic states with you know, certain levels of consciousness, of psychedelic consciousness. And so I can't speak on that because I'm a straight edge guy and my drug is coffee. But you know, I can say that it seems like this goes into your next question here, is that, you know, there are certain modalities of, or let's say certain qualities of synchronicities that connect and introduce a myriad of phenomenon that when looked at separately seems individual, but when looked at together, both anecdotally, historically, even scientifically, there's much greater connection seemingly to these disparate topics. And they're, you know, first a lot of times introduced by synchronicity, it seems. I don't have an example of that, but you know, I think there is something, I wouldn't say a unified theory of weirdness or anything like that, although there's been a lot of great writers and philosophers forever that have tinkered with these ideas and have created their own beliefs. In my wheelhouse of writers and stuff that I read, you know, I read a lot of Keel, and I read a lot of Jacques Vallée, and you know, these are two individuals, for example, who have, you know, messed around with this idea of a unified theory of everything. I don't know if that's the case or not. But there is, you know, scientific research going on even in the quantum level. I know there's some backlash of folks now recently who are saying like quantum woo and things of that nature. But, you know, quantum science is learning a lot of things about the nature of quantum reality that when paired with the nature of, you know, sort of our construct reality, seemingly both systems work, right? But they don't know why they don't really connect all the way. And that seems pretty fundamental when you add in sort of this spiritual dynamic or this metaphysical or paranormal dynamic. It seems like it's another rung of construct reality that maybe doesn't completely always work with all these other different versions of reality that also work for some reason, but that there are these veils that on occasion are thin or can kind of flap in the wind, and one thing can kind of merge into the other. And so, you know, what is that? I'm starting to believe that it's consciousness that connects everything, perhaps, and that there's so much scientific study going on right now to determine consciousness being the link between ghost-like activity. You know, if cryptids are something more interdimensional, then maybe that's how that works. You know, connecting things like out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, these states to states that are more similar to the abductee experience, and even seeing UFOs, right, and having a contact experience in that way could be closer to a heightened state of consciousness that one experiences with seeing a ghost. And so, as someone who's seen all that I can say anecdotally that the quality of those experiences does feel the same in a lot of ways. You know, there's also, you know, there's of course varying levels of trepidation or even fear sometimes. You know, for example, I'm much more afraid of dark hallways that are allegedly haunted than what I ever thought I would be, especially as someone who's almost 40 years old. I'm still a little spooked out by a super dark hallway in a haunted house, right? But you know, the quality of having an actual experience with an apparition, you know, seeing a full-bodied apparition, is really very similar to having experience with potentially a form of contact with light energy or something like that, which I believe I've experienced a conversation in that way.
Okay.
So it feels the same, is what I'm saying. Like all this shit feels the same to me. And if energy is real, if what we were experiencing, Brian, together, driving up that mountain and feeling that buzz, right? If that's real, if there's truth in that, then that's what my truth is telling me, is that this energy feels very similar.
Oh, definitely truth in it. Definitely truth in it. Yeah. Mr. Beans, you got something?
No, that's just, I'm impressed that you got so many cool people. You ever heard of this guy named Ray Hernandez?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
going to have him on? He's a good talker. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to Ray, but indirectly I've talked to Ray many times now. And, you know, I know I'm very familiar with his work with Free and his work with Edgar Mitchell, the late, you know, great Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and some of the other cohorts over there at Free. And, you know, talk about the study of consciousness and its relationship to all of these different things in a current scientific study.
He used to live down the street from me. I mean, he used to live about 5 miles away. I used to talk to him. I mean, I'm still one of the moderators on his group.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. And that guy, Rupert Sheldrake and Dean Radin and about just every academic that you can shake a stick at has helped him written 2 books now.
Yeah, right.
One was from Free, was the Conscious Contact or something like that, or Beyond UFOs. Right. I forget what it was.
That one's like 800 pages.
Got a second one now, huh?
That one's like 800 pages or something.
800 pages. Both of them are 800 pages.
Yeah. I've been chewing through those.
Every academic has anything to do with the paranormal or contact or any of that kind of stuff. He's you know, he's up on it.
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, I think we learned a tremendous amount because of Russia. All right. And I say that because even though, you know, I talked to Dean Radin about this and he wasn't quite sure if he agreed with me, but there was a tremendous amount of money dumped into our scientific community anytime we thought Russia was doing something that we didn't have an ability to do. And once we discovered that Russia had the propensity for experimenting with and potentially using psychic warfare against us, they dumped a tremendous amount of money into things like Princeton and Stanford to, you know, create these programs where essentially a lot of the best in thought leaders for psi phenomenon, remote viewing, conjured together with a budget and developed some of the most breakthrough work in this space ever. And what a lot of those studies, some will say a lot of is inconclusive. I disagree. And I think looking at the evidence proposed, there's a connection to a greater world of phenomenon. It's almost as if from focusing on 1 or 2 different phenomenons, they started to see the integration of these other things, or at least the possibility that these things started to integrate, you know, or were much closer in relationship than what we thought. When you look at Stargate program, for example, and, you know, some of the research that went into remote viewing and what remote viewers were then reporting in terms of their experience, or the level of intelligence they were gathering from unknown maybe extraterrestrial sources even, right? And so there's this broader field of the study of consciousness that I agree, Frank, that man, there's something to it. And I think we're at the tip of the spear right now on discovering let me step back. If we can treat this stuff as a mainstream culture, as we do the UAP phenomena right now, and if we're able to discover a way to have a breakthrough into the greater zeitgeist with this work, and not as just spooky science, but as something that feels exciting and legitimate and cutting edge and mysterious, I think we have a great shot at catapulting what our understanding, what the funds could be to fund this sort of research, and what it could do to our general scientific understanding of these things. That would make my documentary series a little, I don't know if it would make it easier or tougher if we knew more answers. I really don't. But the fact of the matter is that maybe that would lend more acceptance to what this phenomenon could be and to others' personal experiences, as not just something too unbelievable.
Well, what I'm interested in is there's people who teach remote viewing so that everybody can learn remote viewing, and then there's some classes out there on animal communication, like mind speak with animals. And the SASQUATCH are teaching people how to go invisible and to have their mind speak. And that's very real, and all kind of stuff like that. And then you got people like, have you ever heard of Wendy Gallant and Rob Friedman?
Mm-mm.
They have a group called Learning to See Blindfold. Learning to See Blindfold. And there's just these two people that got together and they heard about this, and it was for the guy. Both of them were kind of into the CE5 thing, right? The people who are doing modalities and doing things to bring down the craft and connect the craft. So they thought, well, why don't we get our ESP going? So they started learning this blindfold. They blindfold themselves, and they started with colors and shapes and stuff like that. And then they've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years now. And every once in a while they just like go into another dimension and all this other kind of like wild extrasensory stuff is waking up, and they're teaching this. Yeah. And there's another lady that would just join the group with Ray's group, and she's teaching for free. What do you call it? Remote viewing. She has like a four classes on remote viewing. She's just giving it away for free. So to me, it's like, it's not just this intellectual, oh, that's really cool, right?
Yeah.
No, there's a reality behind it that people can step into and learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
most definitely
phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning to see blindfold.
I can see blindfold.
What's the name of the show? Learning to.
It's not a show. It's a
group. That's not even.
It's learning.
That's not proper English.
Learning to see blindfold.
It should be learning to. It should be learning to see blindfolded.
Yeah, that's what it said.
What does learning to see blind? You said blindfold.
What do you want me to read and talk at the same time?
Well, it's just that learning to see blindfold isn't proper English, Mr. Beans.
Learning to see blindfold did.
Okay. That makes sense.
Well, I mean,
why didn't you say that?
Why do you judge? You're supposed to get the psychic impression.
I mean, I thought I was supposed to learn how to see a blindfold, or so. It doesn't. It's confusing, right? You gotta.
Yeah, but kids can do it.
That's what we have. We have language. Actually, energy is the true universal language and of communication, whatever. But still, in this format, we have to kind of rely on words. So, the right words would help.
Well, as long as you're slandering me, that's all right. It's good. That's good entertainment.
But Brian, I've got a question for you. What do you think the Sasquatch family's interpretation of someone remote viewing or using techniques like remote viewing in their home to try to contact them or communicate with them. What do you think their reaction would would be?
They're trying to connect with them through remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question. Well, they are interested in developing our abilities. So I think that if we could, I think that they would be open to it with certain people. I think.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that mean them harm that they probably wouldn't be that receptive to because, you know, the Sasquatch are trying to, let's face it, you know, there's a small percentage of people who are trying to keep the rest of us under their thumb, as we can see the events of the world going on today, right? You know, and which is very, very sad. But also exciting because it could mean there could be great change happening. So, you know, I wouldn't think that they would want those people to do it, but yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on your intention and your heart or whatever too. And you know, they are trying to open us up to our abilities because we did have all those abilities that they have at one time, and they're reintroducing some of us to them. I mean, you can see in this time of awakening, whatever, so many people are discovering new abilities and whatever, like, you know, like telepathy and, you know, just all these different things. So I don't think that they would be against it myself. What do you think? What's your gut feeling on it?
I mean, I feel like it would, in the type of energy you introduced me to, I feel that it would feel welcomed with the right intent and the right individuals.
With respect, yeah.
You know, yeah. And what's interesting to me is that, you know, if there is a relationship between these seemingly disparate phenomena, and there's something like the CE5 technique for anomalous light activity, potentially extraterrestrials or non-human inhabitants, you know, is there a CE5 for the Sasquatch people? Is there
Well, I can tell you what that is.
Okay.
Yeah, that here's what you do. There's two things, two parts. One is you meet people like me and Brian and Kevin and Sam and Kelly. You meet the people who are already connected up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you talk to them because the Sasquatch are big on friends of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the second thing you do is you just a couple of times a day, whenever you walk out your house, you just say out loud, "Hey, Sasquatch people, I'd like to be friends with you." That's it. You say that over a week or so, and then pay attention because you might get a stick lift, you might get a little pebble at your house, you might get a dream, you might get, yeah, they're there. Right? So if you're friends of friends, if you're friends of their friends, you're on their radar.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to say about Sasquatch is one of the main teachings that they gave me, because I've never seen a Sasquatch, but I'm connected to them. One of the main things that they did is that they teach the all one. That is all one, right? And then the other thing they teach is no space. And what that actually literally means is that we are all connected all the time, and there is no time. So here's the thing, you're already connected with the Sasquatch. The people who are out there doing the CE5 are already connected with the ETs. The ETs are sitting there going, okay, they're just waiting for us to develop, you know what I mean? But they're connected completely. People come out there with no experience with anything. It's just look up at the sky and say, power up, and the thing powers up, right? They don't have to do anything too special to do that. Although the more meditation or the more other rituals you do to try to get into a nice state helps. So that's the main message. All one and no space. And no space means there's no space between me and you. There's no space between me and the computer, and then across to wherever you are or Brian is. There's no space, and then from their computer screen to them, all that, there's no space. It's one.
Yeah.
And when you have no space, you have no time, because something has to go from A to B. to have time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? But if there's
They
no
don't.
space, there's no time.
Yeah. They don't have the
So that's
parameters of time like we do. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and that's very mystical too. I mean, those ideas have been hollowed throughout millennia from, Kabbalists, for example. The idea of no separation, and the integration of space time as being, sort of, just an integrated process. So that's really interesting. Do you feel like, you know, um, talking about like sort of these secret schools or these Gnostic or metaphysical ideas? Do you feel that there was a time where we shared space with Sasquatch people and potentially developed or learned these ideas sort of together, and we're in a process of remembering from them? Or
Listen, listen. You wouldn't believe it. Okay, every single enlightened school of enlightenment comes from a founding guru, right? The guru, he reached this state of enlightenment, and those gurus, guess where they went? They went up to the mountains to sit in a cave, right?
right? Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
they're alone day after day, and guess who's going to come there? And they're just like, oh, okay, you want enlightenment here, you know?
Right.
And all around the world, there's shamans. It's been gone back for thousands and tens of thousands of years. The shamans, and what do? They go off for a vision quest. They go off to the woods. They sit on a rock. They fast a little bit, and somebody comes and gives them the animal spirit or wisdom or something like that. The
Right.
Sasquatch have been on top of the human spirituality from the beginning.
Yeah.
There's never been a time when we're not connected to Sasquatch.
Yeah,
Never
interesting.
once. We're not disconnected. But they, because they understand karma really, really well. They do not interfere with people. So if you're ready, they'll boost you up to what you're ready for. And if you're not ready for it, if you're struggling, they'll just let you struggle because that's part of your unfoldment. So they like to operate completely from the background, right? Most of your teachings can come to you without any interactions with them physically. Although they do interact, and they've written like 3 or 4 books now.
Yeah. No, they're constantly like they'll put a thought in your head, and then thought placement, and then the answer will be right there on the forest path, right in front of you, or in some method. And you're right, Jim, when you say about them connecting people and whatever. They're constantly putting us in situations where we can connect with people. And they've proven that to me many, many times. And also the thing with no time is a fact, because, for instance, they'll give me a feeling that I have to go to the woods and I have to go to a certain place. And, this is a real episode that happened, and this happens all the time, this kind of stuff. So I go there and I start talking to this guy who was a security guard at the gate there, and letting movie guys in and out. And, I start talking to him, and I figure he's very open to stuff. And I mentioned Sasquatch, and we start talking about, spirituality and whatever. And as soon as I said that, he said, "That's funny, because just before you came here, I heard something big walking around in the bush just before, like a half hour before you came here, probably right at the time when I was getting the call to go." So they already knew that he was going to hear that. I was going to go there. We were going to talk about it. It was going to open up doors of possibilities for him. And then at that point, then he heard them. My hearing's not good. He heard them walking around us. At that time, I could feel their energy. After I left, the female in my clan, Raja Say, sat in the car with him all night, and he smelt her floral perfume that he described perfectly, that I know. And he said she gave him a sense of peace and love and connection and whatever. So they're constantly introducing people to other people that either they're going to enhance your journey or we can enhance theirs. So it's all about connections and whatever. And it's, and no time, because, like they already were walking around in our 3D linear understanding of time in the woods, and caught his attention while they were giving me the message to go there, right? Kind of thing. So it's just,
wow.
they're just remarkable.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And I mean, that's just one example of, like, many. I could tell you like a dozen stories, like basically like that. So,
Well, and the
Yeah.
spots that you go to, the spots that you camp in, I mean, for anyone that hasn't seen your Facebook or some of the photos and videos you share, is just stunning wilderness. These rivers or creeks that you go to are just which you camp right next to. It's the fact that you're in such a stunningly beautiful place. I think a lot of folks would go there and immediately have a sense of beauty and wonder and almost a sense that something metaphysical or mystical could happen to them. If any place, it would be a place like this. So beautiful.
yes. I remember when we first drove in, you said if Sasquatch is anywhere, they're here. Remember that? Yeah.
Right.
I'm getting that energy again now too. I'm getting yeah. I guess they got a little bit of a, I wouldn't say ego, but they like that. They like that I said that. But anyway, yeah, there's so many amazing places back, and I mean, you got to come back in the woods, like, get your way back in the woods, like. Remember that fear thing you were talking about?
Yeah.
It's all leading up to me getting you away.
Right. Yeah.
No, but seriously, but no, absolutely amazing stuff. Like like ravens and Sasquatch involved, and like X's showing up, like materializing out of thin air right on your blanket, and raven feather gifts, and taking pictures off your camera, and Sasquatch walking in the bush. All this happening in like one day, kind of just supernatural, amazing, like whoa stuff.
Right.
And all teachings, and all to enhance your understanding. And I don't think they do have a sense of humor, but I don't think they do stuff much that doesn't have a purpose. There's some kind of purpose to it, or and purpose could be just as simple as hello.
We got Susan Funkhauser and Pat McRae talking about remote viewing, and that's some pretty interesting comments.
Well, what isn't that Beef Wellington's job? Hey, what are you doing, Mr. Wellington?
There are no questions. They were having a little conversation, a little sidebar. I would have given it to you a bit.
I'm going to threaten people. If you want this show to continue, you got to ask a question. Because I purposely left the mailbag segment out, and I never thought that no one was going to ask a question. I'm begging you, please, ask us anything.
You just have to turn it into a question.
So I've got a question
about remote viewing. Remote viewing is you're here and you're not there, and then the out of body experience is you actually go there. So they're talking about that, the astral projection versus remote viewing, where you stay kind of conscious at your desk. But astral projection is you actually take your consciousness out and you're actually there with wherever you're going.
Huh? That's really interesting. Yeah, my perspective has been that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, actually, while I have my question, I have a question. No. Finish this. Finish yours first, because it's directly to his point.
No, it was just in my impression, my understanding right now, and of course I don't have any answers. So that's really interesting to me, that variation between what those forms of consciousness could be and where you're at. But it seems like, in forms of non-local consciousness, is that you're always here and there, potentially. You're always in both places. You're always connected. It goes back to that sort of everything is connected. You're always connected to. You're also always connected on a different level, and so that would that's just my only comment there. But that's fascinating, that idea of different levels.
Okay, so I wanted to ask Jim. Got a question?
No, he said this profound thing. She said, Pat McRae says, I was on a ship the other day. As I dozed off, I began to float, and I was on a ship out of body. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because your mind is very powerful. You can anything in the universe.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, I wanted to ask Jim's opinion on this.
Audience participation, in case you want to get some, some notes. If they don't have questions, you just make stuff up. So.
No, we have to have a question. We need a question, guys.
You need a question.
And we need Mr. Well, yeah, okay. Anyway, so I need a question. Yeah, we need a question. Otherwise, my whole show is going to be ruined. I'm going to have to. How am I going to do the question of the day thing? Going to have to edit it in like all phony and stuff like I normally do.
You got a mail back there at your house.
Yeah. Okay.
If all else fails,
If we don't get it.
I could give
Okay.
you one
Okay.
if all else fails.
Okay. Okay.
you give
There
us-
we
you
go.
give us
There
one.
we go.
That's great.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Good.
Well,
You give us one. That's
hang
perfect.
on a minute. Hang on a minute. He can give us one, but I wanted to ask Jim's opinion on this because he's had. What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at, Mr. Beans?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Ignore me.
Well, that's what I tried to do, but I've been trying that, but it's not working. Anyway, you've had some experience with alien abductions and stuff like that, and all the different offshoots of the wild and spiritual and supernatural, and just all the different experiences or whatever. So when about 2 years before my girlfriend and I got connected, because like we got connected in from the Sasquatch, they connected us, and the universe kind of thing or whatever, and we had our own little thing going on. But about 2 years before I got the call to go to the woods, and Sue started having her Sasquatch experiences, we look at this. Mr. Beans is like, whoa, that is cool. He is right off in the fifth, probably the sixth dimension right now, getting some major downloads.
Talk about leaving your body.
So
Yes.
yeah.
It's way out
So
there.
anyway, you're way up there, man. So about 2 years before I got the call to go to the woods, when the Sasquatch told me to come to the woods, and everything started unfolding. My girlfriend and I kept having blood splatters show up on our beds, like little round circles of little splotches of blood in our beds that we could never ever figure out. It happened for about 2 years. And the only thing I've never had a bad experience with Sasquatch, or this whole thing has been positive. So I do feel that something was tinkering with us and changing maybe our DNA or something like that, but I don't think it was a negative thing. What do you think on that, Jim? Have you heard of stuff like that? Because, like shortly after that, and we both had it happen at the same time, we both have a strong connection to them. They brought us together. So it was like it was a precursor, or they were preparing us for something.
Right. I mean, what immediately comes to mind is actually something more attuned to either spiritual activity or poltergeist activity. For example, it feels to me that there's a quality that's more similar to sort of phantom raindrops. Are you familiar with these? Folks report before sort of having contact with anything sort of strange or a big event within their life, to start seeing from the corner of their eyes, or occasionally directly on, raindrops falling inside from no definable source. And this will continue sort of single drop, like, what was that? Did you just see? And sometimes this experience is shared by many people, seeing this phantom drop. Of course, there's situations where it's, some sort of condensation or explainable, but there are many anecdotal cases that have been investigated of these not being explainable. Another thing is coins. A lot of folks, whether they're suffering from some sort of poltergeist-like activity, haunted or active location, or they're about to experience some sort of transcendent experience, they will report coins being tossed at them, around them, on the floor, hearing the bing, 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 and what the hell was that? And looking around, and it's a dime on the floor from out of nowhere. And so, I think that you can find this, I think, with even sort of phantom hairs sometimes. I think this factors into some people, orb-like activity showing up. There seems to be a calling card associated with transcendental experiences, or transcendent experiences at least, that are like a little nudge, a little tap, saying like, hey, you ready to go? Because something big is going to happen. Like, here we go. And I don't think I've necessarily experienced anything like that myself, but there's tons. I mean, just the reports are lousy of experiences like that happening. And so is the blood dot this random, seemingly random, out of the ordinary occurrence that can be something that you two could share together easily and focus on as a rift in your own level of standard consciousness or reality tunnel, an indication or a tap of that phenomena going like, hey, something's going on here. Get ready. That's what comes to my mind.
Oh,
Is it possible
interesting.
that it's some sort of extraterrestrial activity or interactivity based upon its relationship to the Sasquatch family and transcendent experiences? I mean, sure, but like for whatever reason, it seems like that mode of communication is very specific, and that more often than not, folks that experience the ET contact are experiencing it their entire lives, and that people within their own family have also experienced it. There's a lineage of sort of ET contact that seems to occur with most inhabitants. No, that
Well, I did have an ET. I did have something like that as a kid, but yeah, but so you don't think it was like tinkering with DNA or changing something or preparing us or?
I would,
That's what it felt like to
yeah,
me. But I like your explanation too. I do like your explanation too. It kind of makes
yeah,
sense too.
because my guess is that
You
they
know,
would,
kind of opened my eyes
yeah,
a
'cause
bit.
my guess is that they would be more, um, that the physicality of your experience would be less. This is just my own experience, my own opinion, that the physicality of your experience would
Yeah.
be less important to them than your sort of spiritual or internal energies, and that prepping you consciously would be more important to them than sort of a physical aspect, even though that it may manifest in something physical for you to observe, right? So it's like tying the dots between like, here's something, and then that would go with a lot of the other phenomenon that you've experienced in terms of the pebbles coming out from the woods, just saying like, hey, there's something
Yeah.
here, or the sigils, right? The signs they leave, this physicality that is there to pop off or awaken some part of your consciousness to something greater going on. So that's what it feels like to me, is like they're in your room, they're trying to connect with you, but they don't have branches to work with, right? So they need something that is not only going to be physical, but something that is going to be a little bit like jarring. Like, I mean, finding human blood droplets, maybe of your own, maybe of your partner, maybe of something else, that will wake you up to something, because that
Yeah. We could never figure out where it came from. Yeah.
Did you rule out
Yeah.
ET abduction, where they were taking sperm and egg samples and then leaving your, residue on the?
Did I rule it out?
Yeah.
No, no, I couldn't figure what it was. Just it was
Yeah.
unusual. And then and then when I met Susan and she said the same thing was happening to her at exactly the same time. And then our story unfolding, it just seemed like it was a precursor to something.
Yeah.
There's a
But
question.
is this a question of the
It's a
day?
question of the day, but Pat McRae has a great question. She was talking about looking at a picture.
Pat's a he.
Oh,
Patrick.
Sorry, Pat. Basically talking about a picture of a Bigfoot, you can communicate with that individual. And then there's a follow-up question: is there energy in a picture?
Yes, because I have shown my picture of Ari to a lot of people, and he connects with them right off the bat sometimes, just from seeing the picture, and I have felt the energy from the picture. So yes, I say definitely there is, 100%. How about you, Mr. Beans? Anybody else
I
on
think
that?
so. That's why the Sasquatch don't like to be have photos taken, because it gives the person, no matter who it is, access to them. In other words, if some jerk
Yeah.
looks at their picture, then that jerk is able to poke the Sasquatch without their defense. And if you're, you know, a good-hearted soul, then you also have access to them. It depends on your level of consciousness. So they don't really want to do the picture thing because they want to. They like to be in the background. So yeah, there's a connection made from the photons, from the day, from the moment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have a list of, you know, one of those back of the envelope kind of list of 34 things that the Sasquatch and the ET people have in common. That, you know, it's like you were talking about people's going back, their grandmother, their mother, and their father all had ET contact or dreams or something, and then you have it. That's like one example, but that goes on the same way with a Sasquatch. You know, the grandfather and the father, and or maybe it skips a generation, but there's and then you get it. So there's like a generational thing. That's just one example. You know, and another example would be the camera equipment not working. So ETs are famous for, you know, you try to take a photograph of an ET and good luck with that. It almost never works. Or they
Right.
go out there and something happens and everybody's equipment just goes fluey.
Yeah.
But that happens. The same kind of stuff happens with a Sasquatch. But there's like about 30 of those things that are the same.
Yeah. They can
Yeah.
take pictures off
Fascinating.
your camera. They can take pictures with your camera. But I found that, you know, one thing that I have found that, you know, a lot of it just comes down to basic respect. If you tell the Sasquatch, look, I'm taking some pictures. You want to show up in my picture, feel free. Quite often they do. You know, I've seen a lot of them after the fact. That was how actually RE. That's why I got that wonderful picture of RE. I asked him to visit me. I felt his energy like so strong. I was weeping. It was so loving and strong. And after the fact, Sue said, "Hey, look, RE's in your picture." And you know, that was exactly at the time when I asked him to visit. Exactly in the place I was feeling the energy. It was all, you know, lined up perfectly. And there he was. So, you know, respect, right? And if they want to show up,
Yeah.
they will. And if they don't, if you know, if there's something sensitive or whatever, they'll just remove the picture or whatever. You know, they can do all of that. So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you,
Absolutely.
Jim. So you know, so many people have near-death experiences, and quite often they're very very similar. It doesn't really seem to matter what kind of religion or whatever. Like from people, you know, a lot of the studies that people have done, like what was that lady's name that? Oh, uh, who's the lady who was doing the past life and the we had that the guest on it that studied under her. Frank, do you remember who I'm talking
I
about?
don't know. It's, you know, you want to hear the news again?
Anyway, it doesn't matter, but you know the experiences that they say are very very similar. You know, I mean there are some minor differences at times, but do you agree with that, Jim? That there's a similarity between the experiences of the near death experiences, but
Oh yeah.
and it seems
Hmm.
like yeah, and it seems like people are going to, you know, like that waiting room or whatever before they pass over to the other side, I guess, or what I guess. Or they have the option, you can come back or you can go, but they're feeling that love, they're feeling that universal love and energy or whatever. But my question to you is because you've had a lot of experience with ghosts and stuff like that. So what is a ghost? Because they're obviously, are they in limbo? Why are they not, you know, why are they not at that stage where they pass on to the other side or whatever? What what is
Yeah.
missing or what is going on there?
Yeah. I mean,
What do
that's a
you
great
think?
question. I mean, my interpretation of that is constantly evolving and being challenged. So
Of
I
course.
don't know if I don't know if I have a personal opinion or belief system structured around it, but I do know that, you know, a lot of folks believe that there is a reason why ghosts are there, and typically it's something like a mission to communicate with a loved one, a message that they feel needs to be communicated before they leave this realm. Other times there could be a residual effect that traps them in a state of limbo here within this plane that some believe requires mediation from someone with psychic or empathic abilities to be able to communicate to them, hey, listen, you can pass over now. Like your job's done here. They get them out of this cycle that they seem to endlessly be. So whatever that energy is, a lot of people, for a long time have believed that there's different levels of, sort of passing over, and that, directly after a death, perhaps a lot of individuals are closer to this plane. And, as they proceed, they're further and further off before they finally pass over. That there is a sort of a waiting room that exists even. I had a conversation with Chris H. Hardy, who is an investigator and a writer on non-local consciousness. I think I chatted with her last week, and her theory is that there is something of a waiting room in something called the trans dimension. And in this trans dimension, this is the same space that is shared by ghosts, by people experiencing near-death experiences, by sometimes people experiencing out-of-body experiences. This is the spirit realm, essentially. And the spirit realm or spirit dimension is this space where there is some transience between this dimension and theirs before ultimately going on to reincarnation or whatever else that looks like. Who's to say? Also in this space is your own version of spirit that's connected to a level of consciousness. So we talk about that inner and outer, as above, so below. Your spiritual version, that level of consciousness is also always residing there with these different forms. This is also where potential.
You're talking about your higher self, you mean?
In additionally to your, sort of these ideas of angelic guides or totem guides, or even perhaps paranormal phenomenon, extends from this trans dimension, this spiritual realm. So that's her idea, that she has this theory that has also been informed by a lot of research into what Jung had worked on. So I don't know what I believe, Brian. I mean, like, after experiencing what I had, I never thought I'd see a full-bodied apparition staring at me in a dark hallway somewhere in Appalachia. I never thought I never thought I would, but I did. And
okay, well, I want to hear about that, but go on and finish your thought, whatever.
That's it. I mean, I just I can't separate the feeling that I had from it from the narrative or stories that other people have in terms of what they traditionally think ghosts are. At the end of the day, could these simply be reflections or projections of something that we're internally and externally trying to figure out ourselves in this world, right? Maybe that's possible. Maybe these are pieces of our connections to these things that are then, communicating with us, and or we're communicating with ourselves. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But there is a level of interactivity, seemingly, that is reported, and a level of communication that seems to be able to be attained with these energies, that after so much investigation and analytical experience and scientific study seems to be unequivocal. So there's something going on there.
Yeah. I mean, tragedy, and unfinished business or whatever there seems to be some kind of connection that way, though, right? I mean, like, people massacred in a house or a big battlefield or whatever, where there's tragedy and pain and suffering, there seems to be more of this kind of stuff going on, like unfinished business, I guess.
Also vortexes.
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't,
like geographic geographic anomalies, or geological anomalies, rather, liminal spaces, these spaces of in between. We're talking about hotels and airports and wherever people are in between, or an in-between point between different geographical locations even, so there are these intersections, essentially, seemingly, that tie this web together tighter in certain intersections that allow for more interactivity with, this spirit-like activity to happen, I believe. If that makes sense.
So,
Yeah. So okay. So tell us about. Oh, you gonna say something, Mr. Beans?
no, Beef Wellington over here. Just
Oh,
there's
beef.
a question from John Dixon. He wants to take you back to your story about Sue and you before you met and the bloods. He's asking, do you think the blood spots could be from some sort of attack on you from a negative energy? And then he further states, as a paranormal investigator, I know of cases where individuals have undergone attacks that have left bloodstains from the negative energy.
No, because everything that's happened to me since has been very, very positive. I think it was a precursor to my dealings with Sasquatch. So, and I've had nothing but positive, loving interaction with them. So no, I mean, I understand his question, and I've also heard that, and I considered it in context of what he's saying. But no, I do not think it was an attack. I think if anything, it was probably what Jim says, or it was enhancing us in some way so we could be more open to what was coming or something, tinkering with our DNA, something like that. I do not feel it was negative. No, I don't feel that in any way.
All right. Then there's
Personally.
another question. Randy B asks, have any of you guys heard of the Skinwalker Ranch and have any idea what is going on there with many different phenomena like UFO activity, Sasquatch activity, ghosts, unknown monster sightings, and many other strange portals opening and closing?
Well, yeah, I think we've all heard of Skinwalker Ranch. I bet you've got some experience with that, Jim. Do you want to take that away?
I've been there.
Well,
Yeah,
okay, let's
I've been
hear
there.
it.
I did a documentary there with a man named Ryan Burns. He actually owns a property that is just across the fence line from the former Robert Bigelow owned Skinwalker Ranch. So it's right there in the basin, and right there along the basin is filled. The phenomenon, the activity doesn't. It knows no borders. It knows no fences. Right. So this is something that happens within that basin there in Utah, at the same level of propensity. So I met with him, and I actually. There was a lot of trepidation from not necessarily me, but by my close family and friends for me going there, because it's a place that's so loaded with allegedly, nearly malevolent energy, that there was a lot of concern for my safety and well-being. One of my best friends is a non-dual shamanic healer. His name's Timothy Rothschild. And, I'm not, a shamanic practicer, and I'm not a Kabbalist by any means, but, occasionally in matters of spirit, I will consult with him and be like, hey, listen, this is a space where, you've found yourself very comfortable. Do you have any recommendations for me, in your perspective, going to a place that, feels so active and with energies that I'm really unaccustomed to, I think. And he said, you know what, just go with the right intent like you always do. Just go with the right intent. Just be relaxed, right? And I took that for what it meant, and I said, okay, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And I was still trepidatious. And so I'm not a divinator. I'm not someone that uses like sort of tarot cards or oracle decks often or at all, unless I'm with someone else using them. But my friend, Jen Sodini, put out this great oracle deck, and she sent it to me. So I do have one oracle deck, and I go, you know what? Like, the sense of oracle decks is that they're not giving you a direct description or suggestion. They're perhaps just giving you something to motivate ideas. So this sounds perfect for the Skinwalker Ranch. So I'm going to do a basic 3-card pull. I'm going to lay those out there. And what it told me was, hey, like animal energy, right? Like wild animal energy. How do you approach a wild animal? Do you approach a wild animal? How should you conduct yourself? And that's with respect for the power and the majesty of whatever is going on there. It's not for you to even get into its space. It's for you to respect its space and for you to just, stay out of its way when possible and just respect it for that. And so I took all that with me into that place. Taking all that into that place, I felt that protected me, and it allowed me to, capture the story of the person I was featuring and what their relationship to the space was, and tell that accordingly. And what was happening with that individual is that he spent his life as a kid running those ridges, and him and his buddies would go out there at night. They'd be all jacked up, they'd have bandanas on, and they'd have some ghost hunting equipment, and they'd be like, this was sort of Robert Bigelow era as well, so there was NIDS, and they were researching, and it was very sort of militaristic, and talking about razor wire fences and things of that nature in places. And they were out there, we're going to do our own investigation. And sure enough, they had plenty of orb experiences, creatures shape-shifting right in front of them, materializing and dematerializing, UFO activity, cryptid-like activity, synchronicities out the wahoo. So they developed this relationship of respect by force, by this thing saying like, oh, you want some of this? Well, I'm going to give you some. And at a point in time, scaring the shit out of them, where they considered like, well, are we even safe here doing what we're doing? So it said, you're going to respect me whether you like it or not. If you're going to come and play this game with me, I'm going to show you a little of this. And it was force. It wasn't a gentle introduction. It was not a sigils or signs. It was like, hey, MFers. Like, we're going to do this. So after having experience with that, it took him picking up a hitchhiker, falling into a trance after this hitchhiker was with him, communicating messages with him, and being stranded out in the middle of nowhere for sheriff or for tribal police to come and find him with his car shut off in the middle of nowhere, not knowing what happened to him, missing time, to get him to really like sort of reflect on his relationship to that place and what he should do there. And so the land, just sort of very similar to your experience, Brian, the land was calling him. The energy was calling him to engage with it in a different way. And it was a way of respect and positive intent, and not trying to harness it, but to try to communicate and maybe understand something more about himself than the phenomenon itself. And so he went on this pursuit of buying property right there on the ranch, of interacting with the entities in a more peaceful and pleasant way. And he began to get the impression that the energy there was asking for his help. The energy there was, we can go into like some of the history around what people believe has helped create this energy, but it's frankly a little problematic, and I get uncomfortable talking about it.
Was there a burial ground there, Indian burial ground, or what? Is there a history like that behind it?
Yeah, so the popular story, the popular mythology surrounding it, and this might have come through a bunch of white guys. So just take it for what you will. That's why it makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
Is that it is like the old Indian curse trope. Right. So indigenous people, Native Americans, the Ute tribe is based there in the valley, and the Navajo are directly south of them, south and east. And during negotiations with the federal government for splitting up reservation land, allegedly there was a dispute in lands between the Navajo and the Ute. And a curse was placed on the land by the Navajo, allegedly. Also, in addition to this, the federal government were using what they called at the time buffalo soldiers. These are African-American soldiers from slavehood put into service for the country, to, sort of mediate and battle these two tribes, in which for the tribes who had never experienced African-American folks or African folks, were seemingly something supernatural to them, allegedly within this story. I don't know how much of this believe, and I think a lot of it's really, really, can I say like the F word on here?
Yeah.
It's really fucked up. It's really fucking problematic. And I have a big problem with the story. And a lot of the Native Americans in that area, the indigenous peoples, don't like to talk about it. They don't want to share this information. And it's a lot of Anglos, it's a lot of white people continuing to try to harness, control, use this space and these energies in a way that seems harmful to what that is, because these energies started to seemingly speak to the man I was featuring, saying like, listen, we need your help. We need we don't want to be controlled. We want to thrive within this space in a positive way, and he began to believe he was inheriting some sort of mission to kind of figure out what that means. And that was the story we told. Well, right now, his space is under attack now. And anytime the ranch adjacent to him, which is the scientific study spot, which, there's a television show being shot there now. And so, and you can read a ton of material from George Knapp and a Jeremy Corbell documentary and get all the idea of what the salaciousness around the area is.
Yep.
And which I can't disagree, because the energy feels wild. But his he has a trailer and he has a shed. He has 2 sheds set up on his property. His trailer 3 months ago was struck by lightning and exploded, leaving just his shed. A matter of days ago, a dust storm kicks up and destroys his shed. And he has nothing left there now. And so it's in his belief that, this is a communication. This is like a slap in the face. This is like, hey, we're trying to say something, and so even with his intent aligned and with him trying to figure out in a positive way, what the call is and what he's supposed to do there, he's still getting these signs. And so his name is Ryan Burns. He was a feature on Euphomet in the beginning of this season 3. And he'll come on Night Drift too soon, so we can start talking about this with him again and broach this conversation. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, with its problematic history, with its current mythology that it continues to build. And I have mixed feelings about it, and I don't know what my place in the narrative is. I feel weird even kind of like putting myself into that picture, because I don't feel like it's a white guy's place to tell the story right now. And it brings up a lot of emotions about the paranormal in general, and this history that we're inheriting off the backs of people that have been marginalized, right? And what is our place in that to effectively, as human beings, integrate and tell with this story, right? So I don't know the answers to it.
So I'm taking away from that. So this guy, even though they're giving him some messages, like because they're not happy or whatever, he looks at it as a positive energy that's trying to teach him or whatever, just like basically like kind of what I've experienced, but it's just kind of misunderstood.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, like it feels to me like if you're walking down the street and you come upon a wounded dog in an alleyway, right? And it's a dog you've never met before. And, someone comes along and tries to cage up the dog or leash it up or, force it into a truck. What does that look like? And that's what I feel like the quality of Skinwalker Ranch is a wounded dog trying to get leashed up. And that's what it feels like. And there's a lot of mixed emotions in that, and you don't know what the right thing to do is. Hey, this is somebody else's dog that somebody loves, but, it's trying to tear this guy's face off and he's trying to help it, but maybe he's, you know what I mean? Like it's a very complex issue. And what I think it gets to for me is that none of this stuff, none of this phenomenon, none of our connection to it is simple. None of it is simply dualist in nature, right? There's a non-dual aspect of this that is all about not separating and not integrating all the human factors, all the spiritual factors, benevolence, malevolence, all that into one thing, all the phenomenon into one thing. And I think that at the end of the day, that tells us more about ourselves and our relationships to each other as humans than even what our relationships to this phenomenon really is. you know? So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. So the I can't remember. I actually remember to circle back to this again. Tell us about that entity or whatever that you met in the dark hallway or whatever. And is there a history behind it? Do you know who it was? And
Sure.
kind of just give us a little.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So this happened in West Virginia, in a little coal town, or a former coal town. You know, think a little tiny Main Street, looks like something out of Deer Hunter or something. And you know, we go there. I go there with Greg Newkirk. He's from Planet Weird, the documentary series Hellier, as a co-host. And we go and meet this man, Wes, who has experienced psychic-like activity for his entire life, has had what some would call a spirit guide since he was a kid, before being disconnected by that energy in adolescence, and who, living and thriving within a very small holler, essentially conservative town, where he, you know, is shamed for his belief in psychic abilities and of anomalous activities like ghosts. And this was us walking through this space, capturing this story. You know, me capturing a story predominantly about a spirit guide, but walking through this property that him and his father own together, which is a 3-story wood planked former brothel on the main street of this town. So, you know, there's electricity in this place, but barely any lights. You know, there's a single lamp on. And he's describing to us the experiences that he typically has in this house, and or in this building. And he sees recurring ghosts every time he comes to this location. We're on the 2nd story, and he's taking us through these dark hallways, and he's saying, and well, in this room, you know, I see it right now, you know, I see a woman, and she's looking for a baby. And we're like, okay. And you see this now? And he's, yeah, I see it now. You know, she's doing this, she's doing this. He's commentating, you know, what he's seeing directly to us. Takes us further down the hall. He says, yeah, here, you know, oh, there's a man. I see this man all the time. He's a tall man. He looks like, you know, frontiersman, cowboy sort of like man. He's coming at me and he's angry. He's saying, what are you, you know, he's asking me, what are you doing to this place? Why does it look like this? What are you doing to this place? And he's angry. He having an interaction with a woman. The woman is walking down the hallway. They enter into a sort of loop where the man keeps coming down the hallway, talking to him, entering into another room, exiting, walking down the hall, repeat, on some sort of wild loop. And he's commentating, he's walking us through this experience, and it goes on, and there's more entities that are there. We continue on to these, you know, labyrinth-like dark hallways, which to this day was one of the, you know, sort of most spine-chilling experiences I ever had, you know, doing this documentary show. And, you know, we go, okay, I think we got the idea. Let's go into the, you know, the sort of lobby area next to where the lamp is, the table lamp, and let's get more of your story. And I think we got the idea here on what you're seeing. And we tell him, you know, I know you haven't, you know, sort of claimed this, and it's something that you're having a hard time with, but we think that you possess psychic ability, and that perhaps mediumship, and that these are real, you know, sort of souls or ghosts that are trapped in some sort of loop, and that you're you know, they're communicating to you, and you know, it's possible that, you know, there's nothing you personally can do for these folks than, you know, kind of assuade them from being here and moving on. But that might be more complex work. This is coming from Greg Newkirk, who's investigated ghosts and haunted locations for over 20 years. And I'm standing there, and, you know, over Wes's shoulder is the dark hallway that we have come out of, in which that spirit was walking in and out of the room. I'm talking to him, and I look over his shoulder, and exiting that hallway, turning and disappearing into that room, is a translucent bust of a tall man. and he has no.
I mean, just the head, you mean? Like the.
No features from his chest on. He's got shoulders. He's got chest. Starts to disappear at his abdomen. He has a head, and his features are vague. I can't make out a lot of features, but I can make out a silhouette and the anatomical features of a human being, and which match the description, height, and look of what Wes had been mentioning. And I didn't react in the way I thought I would. I didn't say anything at all. Not at that moment, and not until months later. I didn't tell anyone. Because when I saw that, it was such a classic interpretation, and many times they are, I've learned, a classic interpretation of what a ghost looks like. Straight out of Scooby-Doo or something, right? It was too on the nose for me to even digest in a way that I felt comfortable saying. And, I've alluded to it several times during our conversation that, it took me a while to understand and sympathize, actually, with those that have experienced the anomalous and didn't feel safe reporting it or sharing it with others. This was that moment that I felt that way. Because I saw that, and I'm with a ghost investigator who's seen way more wild stuff than me. I'm seeing, someone who we just told is a psychic medium and experiencing the same thing that I just saw. I didn't feel safe in that time with myself to be able to tell them what I saw. I felt self-conscious about it. I felt like, I've seen a lot of things already, but I didn't think I was going to see that. Am I nuts? Am I losing it? What the fuck's going on with me? Yeah. So it took me months later until I finally called Greg. Listen, man, I didn't tell you that whole time. Now, needless to say, to just echo back to how poignant that was for me not sharing. I share everything. I'm an open book with my listeners, with my friends, with my family, being on shows like this. I had a drive that night that lasted 3 hours. I was in a car with Greg after that meetup. There was ample time to spill the beans and talk about this and get his impression and share, like, hey man, did you see that? Like, I saw that. Did you see it too? And he could have been like, yeah, no, I totally did. Or, he would have been 100% supportive and empathetic and one of the most safest people to tell this to. And again, I just, what I learned in that experience is how high the stakes are for so many people that don't feel safe in sharing what their experiences are because they feel like others will judge them. And that's.
So you thought you were going to be judged? Mm-hmm. You thought you were going to be judged? That's why you didn't say anything?
I don't know if I thought it. I felt it. And I felt that like there was something. I was judging myself, I think. I was self-conscious about, okay, well, this is a new chapter. Now I'm Jim, the guy who saw a ghost in front of himself, like a ghost. It wasn't an anomalous light. It wasn't a meditative experience. It wasn't an energy. It was just a ghost standing in front of me. And there was something about that just felt too raw and too real for me to have that as a part of my own character. You know what I mean? Like I felt apart. I felt this is a new level. And it honestly led me through, once again, Robert Anton Wilson calls it a chapel perilous, right? And it's that dark night of the soul. It's that experience of being like, oh, wow, this is too much to handle. How do I integrate this? This is, am I okay? And you go through all these, it's a process, it's stages of trying to understand and be okay with this new understanding of this new reality. And it took me right back to that place that I'd been before, where I had to accept it as what it was. And, I think what made that easier was searching for a meaning in it for myself, whether it is actually what it means or not, whether it was directed at me to teach me a lesson or not. it said, listen, man, like you're going out there and covering, and I know you're doing a good job because you're empathetic and you have the right intent and you're sharing stories like Brian's, but just, don't get too wild. Keep your respect in check because this is some high stakes stuff. And people have a lot on the line, giving you so much of themselves in these conversations and allowing you to share their stories. Respect that. Don't lose that. I think that's what I learned from that, so it was a good ghost. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm glad it happened. And I'm not afraid to share that experience now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd
So-
like to say,
Um,
I'd like to say that you processed it really well. When a paranormal thing happens to you, you need to process it. What does this mean? If my worldview doesn't let it fit in, what do I got to do? Well, okay, everything is one, or we're all connected, or time and space is an illusion. You have to be able to open up these doors and say, well, is it this way? Is it that way? And it is that probing and looking and wondering and dwelling on it until you're at peace. You go, okay, well, it can live in this place or it can live over there, and that's how it works. And that's, a lot of people have that. When you see a Sasquatch, you see an ET or anything like that, or you have a vision, you got to let that stuff live in you and find a place that it normalizes it.
Yeah.
That's what cognitive dissonance is when we can't, when something comes in and it just doesn't fit our worldview or our personal identity. It's tough. You know what I mean? You can't, you reject it. I mean, some people will see a ghost and they'll never mention it the rest of their life, or same thing with Sasquatch. They'll just never mention it because they can't wrap their head around, like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and for me, I was scared that the amount of experience. So going into the documentary, I had one sort of really transcendent experience that informed me that something else was really, really going on. It was reminding me of my past as a child where this stuff was embraced. And it allowed me to go in to hear all these disparate stories and belief systems and take them all in at face value, journalistically, right, as a documentarian, and tell them without any sort of judgment, right? And it's very important to the process I have. So I think my fear was at that time was, okay, I'm going out there, I'm trying to tell these stories without judgment. During the process of that, I'm having all of my own experiences leading me to believe certain things in which I want to not believe one certain thing. I want to keep my mind as open as possible so I can approach everyone with a sense of non-judgment. And I felt that the more I experienced myself as a learned experience, that it would affect the quality of my work and my ability to not judge or have opinions on things that, listen, who am I, like, to have an opinion on any of this is what I think. But that was a big challenge and continues to be, how do I get out of the way of myself? Okay. Cause I'm going to have opinions. I'm going to have things that I want to believe, or that I do believe because things have happened to me, that I need to put aside and focus on what really matters. And that's the connection to the other person and their connection to whatever the phenomenon is, and not put my own shit on it. And that's still to this day, like, I think my biggest challenge that I now inherit with these documentaries is just putting my shit aside and focusing on other people.
how many other Sasquatch people have you interviewed or whatever over or the cryptids or whatever?
Just one other Sasquatch. Yeah, and that hasn't even come out, and I'm not even finished doing it yet. It's with Bryce Johnson. He's an actor.
Okay.
Yeah, he starred in that film Willow Creek, and he's on a TV show right now called Expedition Bigfoot. And so what's interesting about him is, he's an actor, but he started as a Bigfoot enthusiast, something he's been obsessed with since day one, and then started to have his own interactivity with it, while also being in a space of telling these stories narratively through fiction. and now through nonfiction. And so it's an interesting version of communication he has with the phenomenon or with the Sasquatch people, in that he is tasked to integrate all of that and then tell, sort of fictitious stories about it that still resonate with folks, or be an engine in that. And so it's really fascinating. And it's one we're still
fictitious, but with the truth. Fictitious, but with the truth, with the truth
correct
behind
correct
it.
Yep,
Yeah,
correct.
interesting.
Yeah. So still working on that.
Does he look at them as spiritual? Does he look at them very much like I do, or totally different? Or I mean, does he have a teaching student connection with them, or
right?
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for him on this matter, but I think that there are similarities between your stories and your relationship to these.
Okay.
These.
Very cool. Yeah.
But and there's certainly differences. It's a situation where I'd love to have him come up sometime, Brian, and you guys chat and go out together, because I think there's a lot that he would take from that, and vice versa. That'd be really fun.
That would be cool. Well, I mean, hey, when things open up and get back to normal, we'll do that. I'm still having a little one this year, but it's only going to be people from BC, and who knows, maybe only 2 or 3 people will show up. That's fine. That'd be good too. I'm just going to go there and hang out for a week, and if somebody comes, and that's fine if they don't. But next year, I'm hoping for the big one and get you out, and remember that place by the river and the mountain in the background or whatever, and we'll take you out there and stuff. And
sounds great.
That's actually where I saw Ari for the first time, where I actually saw him when he wanted to be seen. But it was funny because when I first actually seen him or whatever, it was like the first thought that came to my head was it was amazing. It was like, and I seen a real good look at him. It was like supernatural, and he was like going across the woods. Like once he seen us and he started moving, it was like on a what do you call it? The thing,
like on a treadmill,
not an escalator, but
a
treadmill. Yeah, a treadmill or whatever. Yeah, but the first thing that came to my mind, when it was as cool as it was, is that this does not mean this is so cool, but it's not the end all. I mean, everyone wants to see one, but when I seen him, I said, wait a minute, all the lessons that I had leading up to this were so much more important. This is just like a little cherry on top, right? So it was kind of a big learning moment too. Like, it was super cool, but it wasn't like finally, like it was just like, and it was like, it's weird because I never really get nervous or scared or whatever too. I just kind of look at, it's like, because the connection is something that I know subconsciously or something too. Like, there's no fear, and I just looked and cool, like, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, cool. But
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot of I think a lot of people would imagine there's a confirmation to that, but you had already, it was more, it seemed more to me like not a reward, but another level of initiation or something. Like, in a way, the cherry on top.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a lot of confirmation there, because he left. What happened was he left an XA glyph propped up in the sand, like probably the best glyph I've ever seen. It was like 3D. It was big peel sticks, and it had an X and the A, and it had another little one woven into it, and it was just beautiful, and it was like so intricate. And so friendship welcome from the clan of Ari is the message. So that message, and then seeing him there looking at us, watching it, and wanting us to see him, it just all confirmed that, like everything I was thinking was right with my meaning for the glyph, with my relationship with him. Everything kind of like, came together, kind of thing, if
right.
you know what I
Fell
mean.
into place. Yeah.
So, yeah. And, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I hope you took a little bit of Ari away with you or whatever. I always think that everyone who meets him, he does something for them. He puts a little, I think he changed you a little. He opened your mind a little bit, I think. You were definitely touched.
Yeah.
Not like Mr. Beans is touched, but I mean, I'm just joking.
Mr.
I'm probably
Bean's
more touched than
like, that
anybody
is
here,
like,
but no, but you're
Mr. Bean's like, that is uncalled for. He just didn't even get a reaction out of him on
no,
that one.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't react. He doesn't react. He's just disgusted with me.
Yeah, no,
He doesn't react. No.
Slander's the new normal.
Yeah. You didn't know you were signing up for that one.
That's the whole premise of the show, was to try to slander. Well, we try to slander our guests, but you're kind of a hard guy to slander because we're actually really good friends. So I kind of have a hard time doing that. But with Mr. Beans, is quite easy. It's quite easy. Yeah,
Sorry, Mr.
it's quite
Beans,
easy.
you're taking the brunt for me today. I'm sorry
I
about
wasn't paying attention.
Oh,
No, you're too broke to pay attention.
Hey, Mr. Mr. Cunningham, could you turn your microphone down like two little notches? You go into the little little microphone thing, and you go to audio settings.
Wait a minute. You want me to do all that technical stuff right now? Can I just
Well, it's
back up
like
a
you're
little bit?
shouting
Am I
at
too loud?
everybody. I mean, after a while, you just have this overwhelming Frank Sinatra voice, and we have nothing.
How's that? Better?
No, you'd have to turn down your microphone.
I don't know how to do that.
I just told you, you go to where the little microphone thing is down at the bottom left of the Zoom room. Bottom left is at the bottom left. Left is on the left-hand side, right down.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a little arrow. You click on the little arrow,
Yeah.
and then go to audio settings.
Okay.
And then it'll take you over to where the microphone is, and you can just bring it down a little bit. You bring it down like
Oh, there we go.
perfect.
How's that?
Perfect. Now we all sound like
That better?
perfect. Oh my God, I love this. This is so professional.
Well, that's what we don't want. You know, because when you hit a certain level of professionalism, then you have to kind of maintain it, and it's something we definitely don't want to do.
Oh, no, yeah. No. Yeah. Well, you can leave it that way, but I don't know what it is. Your new computer or something's louder than your old computer.
I guess. So other cryptids, Jim, dogmen, stuff like that. Any experiences or tales of those?
Definitely
Chupacabra, stuff like that.
Definitely tons of
Mothman.
cryptid activity at Skinwalker. I did go to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and look into, sort of not look into, but relive some of the Mothman history and experience.
Wow, we got to hear that.
Well,
Got to hear the Mothman.
It certainly didn't have any Mothman sightings or experiences. It was, however, going out to what they call the TNT area, where a lot of the sightings happened for him. North of Point Pleasant.
When did this happen? When was this all going on?
This was in 2018 as well. So probably
No. When was the original Mothman stuff, like all that's going on?
Oh yes, that was in the 1960s. I can't remember the exact date right now, but
how many years? Over a period of years, or just months, or?
It was a period. Well, there were reportings here and there over years, but the main encounter happened when folks began reporting Mothman shortly before, maybe days within, the collapse of the Silver Bridge, which connected, I believe, Ohio and West Virginia. This happened during Christmas time. A bunch of folks driving back and forth on that bridge with Christmas presents loaded in their car all suffered a tragic death when they plunged into the Ohio River. And a lot of folks correlate their sighting to the Mothman in the days preceding that as being a harbinger. And so, there's been other sightings of Mothman now before historically, sort of tragic or transcendent events that happened within the United States, in Chicago and New York, places like that.
So it's not just to one area.
It isn't. Yeah, there's been sightings, and there's actually been, I haven't quite looked into it, too deeply. I wouldn't say I'm a Mothman expert or aficionado, but there are certain photographic and video out there that show what they feel is Mothman before things like 9/11, before events happening in Chicago of disastrous nature. And so, I don't know what to think about all that, but those are certainly stories that are out there. Is that this is a incarnation or manifestation of a warning system.
Mhm.
So Mothman. The thing about him is, despite one of the first sightings, it was a car full of kids driving out in the TNT area, messing around, who experienced this thing chasing them back into town, swooping in on their automobile and things of that nature. Essentially,
Was it flying or running?
Flying, yeah,
Okay.
swooping down with a massive wingspan and a human-like body and these glowing red eyes.
Wow.
Aside from that sighting that terrorized these folks, there wasn't a tremendous amount of sightings of Mothman inflicting any sort of harm or attacking or anything else. And so he really is like sort of the idea of him is something that's helpful, is something that's saying like, hey, listen, something's about to go down. You know what I mean? Like, be cautious, be careful, something's happening. And so the majority of the reports happen within that time period of several weeks in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, around that Silver Bridge collapse. For anyone that hasn't heard of this before and is interested, read John Keel, read the Mothman prophecies, and experience what it's like to be boots on the ground, investigating and being a part of a phenomenon happening around you that you can't quite put your finger on. Because tied in with that, with the Mothman, is shady, anonymous government agencies potentially, and an alarming amount of synchronicities and potential UFO activity, and intelligent beings that are seemingly there to gain information, all the Indrid Cold. So just like anything, Mothman is but an entryway into a much deeper storyline of mythology and phenomenon that ties together a broad spectrum of experiences and experiencers in that world. So it's a strange place. Point Pleasant has accepted this story and are really great at celebrating it. Every year there's a Mothman Film Festival. They have a Mothman museum with all sorts of memorabilia and shirts, and they even have a statue, a life-size statue of Mothman downtown. So little tiny place.
What was it? What was it based on? Different descriptions?
Yeah.
Was there one specific description it was based on, the kids, or how did they come up with the statue?
Yeah, the statue was based off the consistent descriptions over many experiences people had. They are all seeing roughly the same creature or entity or cryptid. That's
and what did it look like? Just basically a big man with wings?
Yep.
Or
Yep. A big man with sort of moth-like or bat-like wings, even. An almost bat-like face and head with just these red eyes that everyone would report. But again, the thing that is interesting, I don't know the relationship between Mothman and other cryptids, and that's a really interesting angle and avenue to explore. Is there a relationship between Mothman and Sasquatch people, right? For example, that's fascinating. What is interesting to me also is that Mothman, again, is this entryway into events that hold so many more strange experiences. If you look into the Derenberger case of their interaction with an entity called Indrid Cold, who, they're driving down an isolated highway around the same time near Point Pleasant. A UFO craft emerges. It stops their vehicle. This human-like entity comes out, I think he was wearing, had this sort of slicked back plastic-like hair that seemed unnerving, and they had an almost uncanny valley-like reception to this human-like person. It was almost like someone parading as a human, coming up to them and sharing some information, and asking them some questions, and then going on their way. It was those type of conversations and experiences that stemmed and were related to the Mothman, which is fascinating and just such a deep well.
Yep. Now we got somebody watching. Hello. Hi. How are you? Oh, she's got no
Connecting to audio.
got no audio.
Moto E6.
Stop video. I think she's got to do that. Anyway, we'll let her figure that out. So what? Yeah, I cannot connect you to audio, so you've got to do that yourself. Or you can just sit around and listen. So what was your, and hi. So what was your, what happened in 218 when you went there? Did you have any experiences?
Honestly, the scariest thing about going out there is we went to the TNT area. It's swamp-like area. We were on a peninsula. Out there is all of these bunkers, basically these concrete bunkers that used to hold munitions. And some would say even, refuse from the nuclear plant that's just adjacent. But what was the scariest thing about being out there in the peninsula as night was falling was the shotgun fire from the adjacent peninsula. People were out there hunting and fishing, and they didn't see us. They didn't know we were out on the other side. So we started to think real quickly, like, you know what? I think we've been out here for a few hours. This gunshot continues. We might not be in a safe place here. And so there was this as we were retracing the footsteps of the Mothman stories, and really telling much more a story about how the two featured guests, how their marriage actually was influenced by going to Point Pleasant almost on a pilgrimage. We just felt it started to be no safe. The interesting thing about that experience is I was during that time I was actually staying in Cincinnati for that taping, and we went back to Cincinnati the next day, and the amount of bug bites that I had out there in Point Pleasant were insane. And I was sick for the day after. I was in kind of like a sort of a half lucid state almost for an entire day. And I don't know if it was because of a bite or I was coming down with something, but that was my effect of going to Point Pleasant. And I definitely paid for it. I definitely came back and had to sit out for a day, and I'm glad I wasn't traveling and I could do that. I had the ability to do that. But boy, yeah, the Point Pleasant trip is bittersweet in that way. I kind of feel sick thinking about it sometimes.
So knowing you, I'm sure that you went there with a lot of knowledge and a lot of homework about the Mothman or whatever before you went there. You had a pretty good read on it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what changed for you? What understanding or meeting these people, getting their stories, being in the area, did anything become more clarified to you? Did you come to any other what did you take from it that you didn't know going in?
Yeah. Well, I think it was great to go, anytime I go to these vaulted active locations is a deep teaching. I learned so much just about the people that inhabit these lands and what they feel about it, and if they adopt the history or if they refuse it. If it's a dirty little secret in town or if it's something celebrated. I think tells us a lot about the phenomenon and the openness or the ability to be open of its inhabitants, right? And so I think being in a place like Point Pleasant, which is so small, right? It's a very small town. It was interesting to see people accept it and add this very anomalous thing as a part of their cultural lexicon. you know, right along with this tragic bridge collapse that happens that took the lives of so many people, they paired that pain and that trauma with this unexplained phenomenon. And I think they did that in a way to really kind of help understand and heal what that experience was. You know, these are people that lost their, you know, still to this day, it didn't happen that long ago. They lost their moms, their grandmas, sisters and brothers, cousins, in this tragedy. And they used Mothman almost as a totem, right? Almost as a tulpa or something, a sign that, you know, despite this tragedy, the universe isn't as brutal, as simple, evil as one may take from such a unconscionable tragedy, right? In their way, Mothman was looking out for them, and in that way, the universe, life, was a little bit more pleasant there, because there was something else. Now, I think in the past, a lot of communities would circle around organized religion for these things. And I'm sure there's a majority of people that still do there. But I think, you know, we talked a little bit about, somebody asked about the power of a photo. Well, a photo is but a symbol. The photo is a capture of a memory, which is nothing more than a story that we tell ourselves and tell each other. And within that is all the knowledge and power that we inherit and that we inhabit. You know, talk about mystery schools, and secret religions, and the power of symbology. Coming from a school of design, making my living off of advertising, talk about the power and weight of symbology and advertising, both consciously and subconsciously. Mothman is a symbol that we're going to be okay, that someone else was out there looking out for us, and we can celebrate that. And that's what I took away from that place.
Yeah, interesting. That's probably exactly. I would have thought maybe something totally different, like it was something that they feared or whatever because of the circumstances, you know, that developed after they were seen or he was seen or whatever. But yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
So, what is there any modern history with Mothman there, or is there still things going on, weird stuff there?
I don't think so. Yeah, not in that area. I could be wrong, but I think the more. I think there's been more in Chicago recently than anything else. I know that there's a writer, I think his name is Tobias Wayland, who now studies it as a modern phenomenon, and I think has tried to take the torch from the work of Keel and you know, track the modern occurrences and what they may mean. And so yeah, I think that's who that is.
So we've got
I have a question.
well, hold on a minute, Mike. I mean, Frank. We've got somebody just stopped in, a guest, Moto E6. How are you? Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear it? Can you talk?
Yeah.
She's got her mic on.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. Hi. Do you have a question or something for us?
Who, me?
Yeah. Would you like to ask a question or something?
Oh, I didn't know you could hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm experiencing in my area. I'm seeing a whole lot of different spectrum of energies that are not Sasquatch. But
Okay.
Sasquatch is here with them.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, it's anything. It's anything from insectoids to I actually see feline races, and
Wow,
they all come to me in a invisible like silhouette, and they float in and out, and I see them constantly everywhere I go. It doesn't matter where I'm at. I could be at the grocery store. I could be inside a church. they just float around. They're just like they make themselves small and then they get gigantic. I can walk out in a set of woods and see something that looks like it's 50 feet tall, and I don't understand it. I don't
See it
understand
like in the
why I'm
physical?
seeing it.
Yeah.
No, it's. I wouldn't call it a ghost form. I would call it some kind of spiritual energy or something.
But how do
It's
you
What's the
perceive
it's
it? Like
strange.
visually or in?
It's
Yeah, what's the feeling?
visually. It's all visually, and but when they're close to me, their energy is so powerful that I feel like I'm on morphine.
Mm.
I feel like I have been given an IV of morphine. It just absolutely drains me.
Mm.
The energy.
Uh, yeah, the
Does
energy
it feel
does,
benevolent?
and yeah, it doesn't feel bad. When I feel bad energy, uh, it puts a snap
Yeah.
in me, like something's got me, you know.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
usually
Well,
when it's good energy, I just feel like I'm relaxed, you know.
yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got a
This
friend of the
all
show,
started.
actually.
Yeah,
Oh,
Barbara.
No, well, actually, I was
yeah,
thinking of Christina Schwind. Sees ant people and all kinds of different races or whatever, and she thinks of them as benevolent and kind of like they're just other star nations or whatever, other entities that are trying to help awaken us. I mean, the benevolent ones or whatever. So yeah,
right.
that rings a bell with me as being true. Yeah. What do
Barbara
you think,
Jean
Jim?
Lindsay. Barbara Jean
Oh,
Lindsay wrote a book about the lion-headed people, the cat people. That that they're so considered really
yeah,
good people to be around, like that, as good as Sasquatch kind of. Might be intimidating, but they're good, and so
Right.
are the mantid kind of beings. Supposed to be really.
yeah. Well, I got to admit, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've heard so many people talk about them. Whatever. I've only experienced Sasquatch. I think they're just keeping me uh, to themselves or whatever, but keep me focused, I suppose. But yeah, what do you think, Jim? What's
Well,
your comments on that?
my cat made just an appearance behind me. So if that's telling it all with someone that's experiencing cat energy, right? I have a few questions for you. When did this all start for you?
Okay, this happened 7 years ago. Uh, I moved to a new location in central Kentucky,
Okay.
and within 3 to 4 months after I moved in, the very first night actually I moved in, stuff started happening.
Okay.
I only had my chocolate lab, and I had a couch. I didn't even have my bed moved in, and I had to spend the night here by myself. And as soon as I sat down on my couch to watch my TV, I heard three distinct, large, loud growls behind my couch in the living room window, but like outside my living room window. And I just froze. I didn't know what on earth that was. It scared me to death. I just sit there.
Mm.
So I was with my dog, so I felt comfortable. And then uh, I didn't have any weapons in the house at the time or nothing like that. So that was the first incident. And then the second incident was like in November of 2013, I think. I was looking out my back door through the storm door glass, and I had seen a bird that had flew up a couple weeks before that was solid white, and it had this real odd shaped orange beak on it. And I'm going like, that's got to be somebody's pet. So I
Mm.
had went and bought me some binoculars. Well, my binoculars, I'm looking through my binoculars and I'm looking for birds because I love my birds. So I'm looking through my binoculars and all of a sudden I see this black spot up in the trees. And it's like 45 to 60 feet away from my back door. And I look through my binoculars, and he looks right at me. I've got a 50-inch TV. His head was half of that or wider. And all I could see was his head, his face and lips and eyes. And he looked right through me, right through the right side of my binocular, like he was looking through my soul. And it shook me so bad. I was going like, no, that's not what that is. You know, that's the first thing that jumped to my mind. And then I looked at him again, and he morphed. He turned his head and tried to suck back into the tree. And I'm going like, what in the world? And then panic set in. First I get scared, and then I get mad. So I got scared, and I was going like, oh crap. I let my dog out, and I was freaking out about her. And I slung open the door, and I was beating on the glass at the same time. I was going like, you get the crap away from my house, and I mean right now. So I did that, got Molly in the house, and before I shut the door, I did not hear him come down the tree. He stomped so loud through the leaves, it sounded like it was on a PA system. I could not tell if he was coming at me or going away.
Mhm.
So I shut my door, locked it, and went and sat down with my dog. So a couple of weeks after that, I'm driving down the road, and I start thinking about this. And I'm going like, God, if this is your will for me to go through this, I'm okay with it. I said, I forgive everybody that's ever hurt me. And bam, just like that, my eyes opened up. I started seeing stuff. I was seeing stuff written in midair. I was seeing stuff written on my skin. I
Thank you.
went to, what?
What's? Do you feel comfortable giving your first name?
Michelle.
Michelle. Michelle, I want to tell you just right away
Yeah.
that you're not alone in these experiences, especially in Kentucky.
It freaked me out at first. I had a lot of problems with it, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with it now.
Well, and it's not your fault, and it's not something that you
No,
may even be able to control. All right, because what's happening in Kentucky,
No,
and it's
you
happened
can't
for a
control
long
it.
time, is one of the
Yep.
world's biggest cave systems is underneath Kentucky and in central Kentucky. And so for a long
Yeah.
time, things like Hopkinsville has one of the most notorious cases of these type of animal-like entities that is reported, right? So people are experiencing they're in
Right.
Kentucky. They're experiencing things like goblins,
Right.
these little entities, little kids.
There's everything out here.
Yep.
Good Lord.
Yep. My friends right now are doing an
You name it,
investigation.
it's out here.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. My friends right now are doing an investigation called Hellier. And if you look, there's a documentary series.
Yeah.
It's Greg and Dana Newkirk. And I'd like to send you their information because I think they may be able to help you. They're personal friends of mine. And if you want to chat
Right.
in the chat box here, send your email address. I can help you get in contact with those
Right.
folks because they're looking and studying this right now. But I want you to know you're not going crazy. You're not alone. There is some
I know.
historical, experiences going on there in Kentucky. And
Yes,
so,
there is.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. I've see what's strange is at first I had trouble with it going like, I can't talk to nobody about this. They're going to think I'm nuts. So it's been 7 years and I've mentioned a couple things to family members, but they just laugh at me. But I'm over that now because I know this is not going to go away. And I know one day I'm going to wake up and it's not going to be any different than it is right now. I'm seeing stuff that it makes me feel like our reality is going to melt, like melt into something else that's better. I've seen my ceiling ripple. I have seen the asphalt road stretch in front of me while I'm driving. and stretch back to normal. I have seen the glitch in what you would call the matrix or whatever. I've seen my left eye blink, and I'd be looking at an old, nasty-looking, dirty electrical truck sitting in traffic. And I glance down at its bumper, and bam, he's a brand new truck. And then bam, it goes
Whoa.
back to the dirty truck.
Whoa.
Yes. And that was like, I've seen so much. I've seen teleportation twice, back to back, in the middle of the daytime. Because it's something that I've thought about since my childhood. If that stuff was ever real, they're showing me things that are real or that can possibly be a thing. I see sparkles of light when I'm looking at a silhouette of an invisible, what somebody would call an invisible being. And when I make eye contact with them, they throw out this little spark of light in their eye every time. Like, if I'm looking for them, they'll do it so I can find them. That's what I'm thinking. But
Michelle,
it's
with all
just, I've
you-
seen a lot of weird stuff. I've seen stuff pop into my reality, like a body part or something, and then pop right back out, just in a flash.
Michelle, do you have
I don't have no pain.
or do you have a friend or a family member or community that you feel comfortable in sharing your stories with on a routine basis? Do you feel like you have a support system?
I've shared. No, I really don't. I don't think I need a support system. It's just I'm glad I have found like-minded people that I can talk to about it, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I've told Michael stuff. I've told Suzette stuff. I've told just various different people. And what was so strange when I got connected to them is after a couple weeks, I started getting all these friend requests on Facebook from people I didn't even know, and they were just coming out of the woodwork. And they all had connections to Sasquatch.
Mhm.
And I'm going like,
Yes.
well, that's cool. And then I started reading articles and finding people that was going through the same stuff, and then figured out that, that wasn't an accident for me to get connected to all those people on Facebook.
Absolutely
I don't
not.
think it was an
No.
accident. I think they did
No,
that
I know it
purposely.
wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
So what's
And
your
see,
relationship
I've
with
been
Sasquatch?
healed. Right. I've been healed by them. I've had TIAs
What is your
in my
relationship with them right
brain.
now?
They know they can travel through where I live at. I have no trouble with them coming through. Transferring their location. I don't have any trouble whatsoever. I mean, they ding dong my doorbell all the time. They come to my camera, not in full form, but I can see them in their invisible form off my alarm camera. They'll sit there and ding dong my bell from 2:00 in the morning till 6. Every 2 minutes. Boom, boom, boom. It's just something going on. I've had them tree knock right in my front yard. He must have been mad at the time when he did it, but that was when I first moved in here. He tree knocked the tree in my front
Why do you
yard.
think he?
and I
Why do you
thought
think he
blew
was
the tree
mad?
down. That's how loud it was.
Why do you think he was? Why do you think he was mad?
Maybe he was trying to check my fear level. I think he was trying to check my fear level now. But
Well, they will
he
do
might have
that.
been
Yeah, they
mad.
do that. They test your metal.
He might have been mad because I moved in here. I don't know. But I finally figured
I
out
don't.
what
I
his
don't.
name was, because it's
I don't get that feeling. I don't get that feeling he was mad. I don't get that feeling at all. I think it was they were just connecting with you.
Well, right.
But
Their way of connecting to us is totally different than what humans do. They have a different way of doing it.
Well,
But
and they,
I've had some dreams given to me. Um, I've been healed by them. Um, the healing was amazing. It was just,
Talk about that,
you
please.
know, it's just one of those things that just make you sit there and cry. Talk about the healing.
Yes, please.
Okay, the very first one I had was I had been having speech problems, like my brain wasn't connecting to my voice box, I guess. You know, I was having TIAs that I figured out I was having in my brain, which is a sign of stroke. So uh, I started taking aspirin, and it was kind of subsiding it, and I wasn't getting as many pains in my head, you know. And then one day I'm laying there on the couch, and I fell asleep at night watching TV, and I had my head held by both of my hands on both sides of my face, and that's how I fell asleep. Well, I woke up to a complete vibration from the neck up. My whole head and hands, everything was just vibrating. And
Mhm.
I'm going like, I just laid there. It kind of shocked me. It woke me up out of a dead sleep. And I'm just laying there, and it went on for over 5 minutes, just, you know. And
Yeah,
I'm going like, what in the crap? And then about halfway through it, I realized that they let me know it was them. And I ain't
yeah,
had a pain in my head since. I ain't had a
yeah.
pain.
I've
And
had the
then,
same thing. Yeah.
like, I'll be walking through I'll be walking through the grocery store, and all of a sudden, a part on my body, like an organ on the inside, will just burn like fire, just heat. And I'm going like, where's this coming from? And I'm just walking grocery shopping, and the heat will come out of nowhere. It's like they know exactly what needs to be done in your body,
Hmm.
and it's just amazing. I've laid there in bed, and I've had like the whole front, halfway down my chest to my hips, all the way over my side, and halfway up my back. On the other side, it was like they laid a heating blanket on me. Like it was as heavy as the lead blankets they use in x-rays. It was that heavy. I felt them lay it on me. They laid it on me, and it got warm, but it didn't get hot. And they did that for a good 10 minutes, and then it disappeared. And then they reached in and activated my heart. They reached in, and I felt his hand go in my back and reach in and pump my heart one time. That's all it took. And that was amazing. That
Yeah.
made me cry. That
That's
was made me
amazing.
cry.
Yeah.
I
I've
just sat there and cried.
I
I said, thank you.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I've had that energy where they're healing you and stuff too. So and also I've heard of I know a friend who had open heart surgery
Yeah.
uh
It's,
done by them or whatever. So they definitely heal. But sounds like we want to have you on maybe for you got a lot more to talk about. But we're getting on to like 3 hours here.
yeah, there's so much
So
that it's hard for
yeah,
me to remember.
yeah. We're gonna have to have you on like for your own guest or something, I think. But anyway, so yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, that just confirms, when we connect with people, it just confirms a lot of the stuff that we've all gone through too. Because I mean, I've had that energy where I was
Right,
vibrating and stuff, and I've heard of people
right.
getting healed and and had healing and
Okay,
stuff. So it's just
right. I
beautiful
do
how
have a
that.
question now.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Do y'all know much about the history of the sun? Because I had something happen to me. It made me cry, but I really didn't know how to understand it. I'm driving down the
The history of the
bypass,
what?
or
Son,
I'm actually in the passenger. The sun, the sun.
go ahead and
Um,
tell us your story
I'm
a little bit.
actually in a passenger seat going riding, right? And I'm looking out the window. I got the window rolled down. I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden I look up at the sun, and the sun starts pulsating at the exact same beat on the radio. And I just froze. I'm going like, I'm tripping. There's no way that's doing that. And I kept looking at it, and it kept doing it, and it kept doing it. And I just started crying.
Yep.
And my husband goes, why are you crying? I said, you wouldn't believe what I just seen. And he goes, what? And I said, the sun is pulsating at the same beat of the radio. And he just started laughing at me, you know. So I don't know if it was my eyes doing it or the sun was doing it. But you know,
Just the universe
some
talking to
people
you.
say the sun.
Just the universe talking to you.
Some people, yeah. I was trying
What do
to
you?
figure it out.
That's what I think.
Figure it out.
The sun.
Well,
and
the
planet-
universe answers you all kinds of ways, like
The sun and
with
the
you know,
planet
like I've had.
Go ahead.
I've had like big hearts appear in the sky just out of nowhere,
Yes.
or my girlfriend Sue, she'll ask for an answer or something, and suddenly, you know, right as soon as she's asking for confirmation, a comet or a shooting star will come across, or some, you know,
Yes.
that the universe is big, and if you pay attention, you can see the answers in the sky, or you know,
Amen.
all over the place. So it's yeah.
They'll
So-
write the answers
Yeah.
in the clouds.
Yeah.
It's
So, what was your question? What do we know about the sun? I mean, I think it's just the universe
like
talking to you. I don't think it's specific to the sun. Myself.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
asking, can the sun do that? The sun can do that. Every planet and every star is a being. So, like I'll give you one example. You've
Yeah.
heard of astrology, right? And they talk about Mercury and Mars, and you know, all these things, right? Well, the
Right.
reason why they have astrology is because the people in the ancient times would talk to the stars and to the planets, and they would say,
Right.
okay, this is what our energy is about. And from that, over generations, they wrote that all of the astrology that we still use to the day, which is pretty accurate, is the planets have an influence on us, and they
Right.
respond to us. So I think there's nothing wrong with you. I think there's a lot of things right with you that is hard to swallow how much right it is, how much good it is to be able
Yeah.
to see. Yeah.
I know.
To go from normal to
I did want
wow.
to tell y'all that. Yeah, I did want to tell y'all that, you know, as we're being taught about the oneness, that we're all one. I physically watched a bunch of tree limbs protect the site of a Sasquatch. The tree actually moved in slow and covered up his face. And I knew right then that that was one way of being taught that we're all one.
That's the right conclusion.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
That's what I got from it.
That's the
Yeah,
message
yeah,
everybody
that's right.
gets. Who's yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
because if you notice, I don't know, I guess I started looking for it after that happened. When you look up at a knob or a mountain and it's covered in trees, sometimes you'll see a bunch of circles, like open spots. Those are lookout points or lookout spots for them, I guess. I don't know. They're way off in the distance, but you can see just circles opened up in the trees where I guess they spy on everybody. I don't know.
Well, they
But I
don't.
thought that
You
was
know,
pretty amazing.
they can be actually right beside you, like cloaked, and they don't really have to.
Yeah, no.
Although I imagine that too, them looking at you
Yeah,
from a
that's
vantage point, like, you know, which they will do too, but you
yeah,
know, they don't.
right.
They can be right. I mean, they're right.
Right.
They're right beside
Now-
you a lot of the times.
Right. Like the first time they ever gifted me a rock, this rock was green. I don't know. It was it came from Kentucky. They have these rocks everywhere. It's some kind of green rock. I I had to look it up, but I can't remember the name.
Is it like
But
jade?
I picked it. I had made a flower garden, and after I made the flower garden, they stuck a rock in there that wasn't there before. Well, my dumb butt didn't know what I was doing. I picked it up and I smelled it. Well, I could not put this rock down. It smelled so beautiful. I couldn't stop smelling it. I mean, I couldn't take it away from my nose. I couldn't place the smell. I couldn't place where it came. And I just smelled it and smelled it. And I brought it in my house. I've still got the rock, but it was like some type of orchid or something. I didn't know what it was. Well, I had a bunch of dirt and stuff on it, so I didn't know what I was doing. I washed it. It was the worst thing I could have ever done. I washed the smell off of it, and then it went away forever. So I started realizing that I had honeysuckle all up and down my fence rows. And then I realized that was the smell. They had rubbed that rock in honeysuckle and put it in my flower bed. They rubbed honeysuckle all over that thing and put it in my flower bed. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I washed a rock. I still can't get over that. But
Well, I think that's what I would have done probably too. You know, clean it up. And
yeah,
I don't think you
they gifted me. Like I went to the creek one time and they had these little bitty rocks piled up all against each other to make a stand, and they had stuck a feather in it right for me to find. And it was sticking straight up. And I'm going like, well, I hope they
absolutely.
did that.
Yeah, but they've done that for me. They've done that for me, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I'd never heard them throw a rock at me or nothing, like a big rock. So I went to the creek a different time, and I drove off to this little gravel pull-off, and it's right next to the road. Well, when I got ready to leave, there's this half-size boulder laying in the middle of the road, and I'm going like, how did they get there without me hearing it hit? Because I couldn't have been no more than 25 feet from it. You know, and I'm going like, how did I get there? You know, and but when I take pictures, they're all over the place. And that's how I found out the clan leader's name. His name was Latito. He spelled it across the picture. And he also introduced me to his daughter. He spelled her name with E, Elsala. And he said, this is my daughter. He wrote it across my photo on my phone. I've seen him blink through my phone. Like when I'm looking at a spot in the woods and my phone is getting ready to take a picture and I see something move, I can actually see them in everything. I see them in the walls. I see them on portraits. I can see them in the dirt, in the grass, everywhere. It's just, I don't know. I can't distinguish if they're just elementals coming through or they're, or, you know, I've seen like dark areas across the road, but I can't make out, you know, technically if they're Sasquatch or not. But they, at one point, they'll spell stuff across the tree lines and I can read that. They spelled Nephilim across the trees. I've seen the words fallen angels spelled across trees. When this first happened to me, I was at a doctor's office getting ready to pick up my husband's check because his boss had took his wife to the doctor. So I'm sitting out in the parking lot and I'm looking at this tree line. It's like, I don't know, 100 yards away from me. Yeah. And these 20-foot tall letters came up and started spelling dark letters across the tree line. It said, Jesus is coming, Michelle, is what it said. And you know, I haven't told a whole lot of people stuff like that, but um, you know, Suzette and I mean Michael knows some of it, but Suzette knows more about me than most people. I talk to her just about daily, but
Hey,
um,
Michelle, Jim Perry gave you a
I have,
message in chats. Michelle, Jim Perry
yeah,
gave you a message in chats. You have to, if you know where the chats are, can you see them off to the right of your screen there? You go down at the
yeah. I
bottom of the
see
screen.
Frank Oliver Beans on here. Yeah, I see that.
Can you see the chats? They say so Jim Perry in the chats. You have to click on the chats, and you'll see his message. He
I
wants you to
don't
give.
have. This has got recorded live on it. I don't see anything for
At the
chats.
bottom of at the bottom of your screen.
I'm on recorded live. Okay, it just says your name. It says Frank Oliver Beans.
Are you talking about he wants your email?
Yeah, he wants.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I can leave my
just
email.
getting to.
I can leave my email in the comments on where you're
Yeah.
watching this on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Public.
Anyway, we're getting on to like this is already the longest show we've ever had, and I want to kind of close out with Jim giving an overview of some stuff. But we want definitely Michelle, we want to have you back on because wow, some amazing stuff.
Amazing.
Thanks for sharing, Michelle.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. No problem. I appreciate y'all listening to me.
No, a lot of it rings true or whatever, like with my experiences. So it just,
Yeah.
more confirmation. It's great. So, Jim, what's your overview of, can you give us like an overview of, I mean, okay, so where are you now from where you were like 10 years ago or whatever, or 20 years ago or whatever? Where's your understanding taking you? What is your current, because we're always evolving, right?
Yeah.
We're always being taught. So our
Just trying to say,
understanding.
Close out the show with your final statements.
Yeah. Give us an overview of, like just whatever you want to say, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's great potential for us to continue listening, taking in, integrating other people's stories, empathetically, with an open heart, and non-judgmentally, and for us to try to find not definitely the answers of what the phenomenon is around us, but to just pay attention to how this stuff is making us feel and how it's better connecting us to others and sometimes the great unknown. And so that's my difference, is I put that into action now, not as something to be just entertained by, but I guess I'm holding the mic like this to close it out. This just snapped right off. But to put it into action, to internalize that and to live in that experience. That's the difference between me now and me maybe 10 years ago. And, my friend Ryan Singer says it's more fun to believe. That's his tagline, right? And that's the case.
Yeah.
That's the case. So.
Yeah. And I think, and also learning about yourself, right? I mean, it all comes down to us learning about our true nature and about ourselves, right? So,
Yep.
and yeah, and what you're doing, talking about this and connecting with people in your show, and hopefully what Frank and I are doing is really, really important, because it, like we met people like Michelle today, or I met her for the first time, and it just brings everybody together, and it kind of, it makes it all right, or it makes it like, yeah, I mean,
That's right.
Because for all of my experiences or whatever, like, and other people's experiences, when you talk to people like in the format that you and I do and whatever, or just like in normal conversation, or just, there's so much collaborative stuff that puts, like that speaks true to you and makes your experience is real, and also for them. And it's just opening us all up to who we really are, and it's just a different understanding and whatever, and a broader understanding. And it's like, this is just a dream, more or less. The real world is probably who we, our higher self, and who we really are.
Well said.
I guess I kind of ruined your speech,
No,
didn't
well
I?
said. That was a tag team right there. That was great.
Yeah, hey, and you know what? We're going to be doing. We are going to be barreling down the highway again, and we're going to be singing um, Gordon Downey and the Tragically Hip Man, and we're going to be,
That's right.
and we're going to be kindred brothers again in the woods.
2021. Here we come.
2021, we're going to have an RE gathering
That's right.
out in the
I
woods
can't
there,
wait.
Thanks for showing up.
and I'll tell you, and I'll tell you what, everybody that comes up here, he gives them something. He has something special for everybody that he wants to connect with in this clan, and that's the beautiful thing, and that's the beautiful thing of the Sasquatch people, their hearts and their teaching. So anyway, Jim, we barely scratched the surface. We want to ask you back again.
Sure.
Or just have you come in and just pop in and just be a contributor or something. And of course, Michelle, quit it.
Thanks
Beans.
everybody for the 62 comments, seen by 38.
Hey, Beans.
Thank you. What?
Well, you didn't do this. You didn't do that.
I did that. You did it.
You didn't do this?
Right over your head. I did that already. Done. It was done.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did it exactly
Okay.
15
Anyway.
minutes ago. But you didn't listen.
Anyway, we want to have Jim back because I mean this guy's like my brother. I mean, really, I love the guy like a brother.
Bye, everybody.
Nice meeting you, Michelle.
Turn the
Hey.
recording off.
Thank
And we can
you
keep talking
for
about
having me.
Dean and give us stuff. You know what I mean? We could do exchange emails and stuff. Bye.
When's the next time you are going to
He's
be on?
We're on every week.
Next week we're on every week, and then yeah. So, are you a member of the Pork and Bean Show? Join our
I don't think so.
lunacy and
Yeah.
well, talk to Michael about it and
Okay.
or Mr. Beans, and
Turn the
we'll get
recording off.
you hooked up. Yeah. Okay. So on behalf of Port Cunningham,
And Frank
Frank
Oliver Bean.
Oliver Beans, and our cohort Beef Wellington.
And our great guest, Jim Perry.
This is the Pork and Bean Show, and thank you for Jim Perry, and thank you, Michelle, and thank you everybody for stopping in, and we'll see you next time. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Port Cunningham here. It is my honor to introduce the segment of the show that we affectionately call the Pork and Beans Cluster Fund.
Worship, but then a chance to get to heaven slam. Oh, I used to worry about the future, but then I threw my caution to the wind. I had no reason to be carefree, no, until I took a trip to the other side of town. You know I heard that boogie rhythm. Hey, I had no choice but to get down, dance. Nothing left for me to do but dance. All these bad times I'm going through, just dance. Got candy in my ears tonight.
You're not really incognito there, Mr. Beans. You should change your name.
I'm not changing my name. I'm already a fraud. What do you want?
Did you say frog?
Huh?
Did you say frog?
No, I said fraud.
Oh, okay.
It's the same thing.
Right?
Changed it.
Huh?
I changed your name. Frank Oliver Beans.
Never been this blue. I never knew the meaning of a heartache. But then again, I've never lost love before. Somewhere down the road, maybe all those years will find some meaning. I just can't think about them now or live them out anymore. Stand tall, don't you fall. For God's sake, don't go and do something foolish. All you're feeling right now is silly human pride. Oh, stand tall, don't you fall. Ooh, don't do something you might regret later. You're feeling it like everyone. It's silly human pride. Never lasted so long. No. Hope you so much, loved you so many. I just can't believe I could throw it all away. Sometimes late at night, when there's nothing here except my old piano, I'd almost give my hand, make you see my way. I'm gonna stand tall, oh, don't you fall. Oh, for God's sakes, don't do something foolish. All you're feeling right now